Chapter 1842. No one left. Lin Yi sighed inwardly. Seemed like he had to take the risk after all. He wanted to trick these people into leaving with words, but he didn't expect these three to be that easy to fool. Not all Earth-class masters were as cowardly as Yu Huixing. Fu. Lin Yi activated the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, and the strength of an early-stage Earth class was displayed in front of the three. Early-stage Earth class? Zhao Guang'er was stunned for a moment, then he laughed out loud. Do you think you can beat any one of us with your meager strength? I think you'd better surrender and I'll give you a quick death. Wait. Yu Lu was afraid that Guang'er would kill Lin Yi right away. Where would he get the qi-gathering pill? He quickly said, Lin Yi, hand over the thing you took from Yu Huixing in the tomb, and I'll let the two girls go. I only want the dog, Yu Shisan said coldly. Are you three retarded? Lin Yi suddenly grinned and looked at the three Earth-class masters standing not too far away. Each of them was stronger than him, but Lin Yi looked at them with disdain. Yes, disdain. We haven't even decided who's better and you're already dividing the spoils? Is there even a need to divide? An early Earth-class junior. Zhao Guang'er laughed arrogantly. One move. Lin Yi said faintly. What? Zhao Guang'er paused. He didn't quite understand what Lin Yi was saying. Guang'er didn't hear it clearly, but Qibing and the others heard Lin Yi's words through the listening devices on them. Qibing laughed. Is this Lin Yi an idiot? One move. Does he think everyone in front of him is a mystic? He's overestimating himself. Yeah, I think he's the one who's one move. Kong Mingming added. He knew that Zhao Qibing was from the hidden house Zhao, so he tried his best to please him. After all, Donghai was the territory of the hidden Zhao family. Although the hidden Yu family was the Kong family's backer, it was too far away. If they could get the support of the hidden Zhao family, then the Kong family would be even more powerful. Only Yu Huixing's face twitched a couple of times as he felt a chill in his heart. When he remembered that Lin Yi was the male thief, he naturally felt a sense of fear in his heart. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. As he spoke, he slowly raised his right hand above his head, and the second level of the art of dragon mastery was abruptly pushed to its limit. What do you mean? You want to surrender? Yu Lu didn't understand what Lin Yi was doing, but no matter what, Lin Yi's strength was only at the early phase of the Earth class. This was why he was confident that Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything. There are two hands to surrender. Why are you raising one? Lin Yi didn't bother with Guang'er and Yu Lu. His eyes flashed as he raised his right hand and pushed it towards the three. In an instant, a strong wave of heat rushed towards Guang'er, Yu Lu and Yu Shisan. The strong red air current brought with it the power to destroy the world, crashing towards the three's heads. At this moment, a trace of fear flashed across Zhao Guang'er's eyes. He shouted, not good, run. Huh. Lin Yi let out a long laugh. It was too late for him to run now. Lin Yi didn't think that he'd actually succeeded. The second level of the art of dragon mastery wrapped around the fire poison qi and was released by Lin Yi. Under the guidance of the second level of the art of dragon mastery, the fire poison qi followed Lin Yi's will and formed a red mist above the heads of the three Earth-class masters. The mist was so wide that it completely covered their escape routes. By the time Zhao Guang'er realized that something was wrong, it was already too late for him to escape. He had been too confident before and didn't put Lin Yi in his eyes at all. He was caught off guard by Lin Yi's move. He wanted to retreat, but the moment his brain gave the command to his legs, the red mist seemed to have come alive, wrapping around his body. Guang'er screamed. This was the last sound he'd ever make in his life, and in the next moment his body turned into ashes. If Zhao Guang'er was like this, then Yu Lu and Yu Shisan were naturally not much better off. Before the two of them could even react, they were already enveloped by the fire poison qi and turned into wisps of green smoke, disappearing into the wind. This move was something that Lin Yi had thought of on the spur of the moment. He'd used it with the attitude that he'd succeed or die trying because he had no other choice. Using his normal strength to fight two Earth-class masters and one Earth-class master in the late stage would only lead to death. Lin Yi wasn't that stupid. Using his qi to guide the fire poison qi to attack Guang'er, Yu Lu, and Yu Shisan was something that Lin Yi had learned from Rock Candy. Sky-class masters could control and release qi outside of their bodies and use it to transmit sound. Since qi could record sound, could it also record one's own will? Therefore Lin Yi had set up an attack route for his qi in advance, letting it guide the fire poison qi to attack Guang'er, Yu Lu and Yu Shisan. first it would turn into a red mist, and then it would wrap around the three's bodies one by one, inflicting heavy damage on them. However, Lin Yi only wanted to inflict heavy damage on the three. As for the three of them being vaporized into ashes, Lin Yi hadn't expected that the fire poison chi would be so overbearing that it could turn 3 Earth-class masters into ashes in an instant. Seeing this strange phenomenon, Lin Yi felt a deep sense of lingering fear. He was so lucky that he didn't die from chi deviation. In fact, although Zhao Guang'er, Yu Lu and Yu Shisan were all Earth-class experts, none of them cultivated a fire-based mental cultivation technique. If any of them cultivated a fire-based mental cultivation technique, they wouldn't have been burned to death so easily. Unfortunately, Yu Shisan was only an expert from the Yu family and not an alchemist. What made Lin Yi excited was that he could indeed control the route of the chi he released. In fact, Lin Yi could vaguely feel that although he had set the route of the chi, he could still maintain a certain connection with the chi outside of his body. It was a mysterious feeling, but the battle ended in an instant. Lin Yi didn't carefully think about it or feel it. Damn, where are these three people? Why are they all gone? Shield Bro showed his power again and vaporized them. Yushu said in surprise as she stared blankly at the red mist formed by the fire poison chi that was slowly dissipating. Not far in front there was no one left. Chapter 1843. She forgot Mingyao had a vague idea of what was going on, but she was stunned by the scene in front of her. In an instant, 3 masters were burned to ashes by Lin Yi. Was this for real? In the car, Zhao Qibing, who had been bragging a moment ago, saw the 3 Earth class disappear in front of him. His voice stopped abruptly. Kong Mingming, on the other hand, was stunned as well. He couldn't believe the scene in front of him. One move. Really, one move? 3 Earth class gone just like that? Kong Mingming couldn't believe it. That Lin Yi who was beaten up by Right Shisan and had his teeth all over his body, how did he become so strong all of a sudden? Run. Yu Huixing spat out 2 words with difficulty. He was so scared that he almost lost control of his bowels. Was this guy even human? He killed 3 Earth-class masters in one move, and one of them was an Earth-class late phase. Could it be that Lin Yi had broken through to Sky class and was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Yu Huixing's words woke Zhao Qibing and Kong Mingming from their stupor. This car belonged to House Zhao and the driver was Zhao Guang'er. Now that there was no driver, Zhao Qibing scrambled to the driver's seat and started the car. He stepped on the gas pedal and drove away from this terrifying place. Yu Huixing felt that Lin Yi didn't notice the car and didn't chase after them. He let out a long sigh of relief. He was lucky that he didn't go for revenge stupidly, otherwise he wouldn't even know how he died. Yu Huixing was an Earth class, but he couldn't tell what technique Lin Yi used. With a flip of his hand, he formed a red mist that covered the sky and turned people into ashes in an instant. It was too creepy and scary. Kun nodded. Zhao Qibing and Kong Mingming were scared out of their wits as well. 3 Earth-class masters. In their eyes, they were invincible existences, but they couldn't even take one hit from Lin Yi. And now, Qibing finally believed Qikuan's words. Lin Yi, this guy would make a bunch of enemies every once in a while, and when he wanted to cause trouble it was too troublesome. So he'd pretend to be injured or lose his strength, waiting for his enemies to come knocking on his door, and then kill them one by one. Zhao Qibing shuddered at the thought. This was too sinister. This guy was addicted to pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. Next time I won't fall for it. Whoever goes again is a fool, a big fool. Kong Mingming cursed in his heart as well. If he'd known that Lin Yi was this strong, he wouldn't have asked Yu Shisan to cause trouble for Lin Yi. Now he didn't know if the hidden house he would send any more masters over. Let's go back. Lin Yi won, but he still had lingering fears. Even if there was a small mistake, he wouldn't be able to kill them in one hit. Of course, this result was far beyond Lin Yi's expectations. Lin Yi didn't even think about burning all 3 of them to ashes. From Lin Yi's perspective, it was a waste to force the fire poison out of the body, so he might as well make use of it and use it like a chi bomb. Even if it wasn't as powerful as a chi bomb, it would still be enough to heavily injure them. As long as he did that, he'd have a chance to escape. But he didn't think that it would be so thorough, and the 3 of them disappeared. But what Lin Yi didn't know was that it was the fire poison from the 2nd stage of the art of dragon mastery. Even the ice spirit fruit couldn't completely suppress it. And normal people who went crazy didn't need to force the fire poison out of their bodies at all after eating the fruit. Shield Bro, where are they? Yushu blinked. They've turned to ashes. Lin Yi pointed at the fine particles on the ground that hadn't been blown away by the wind. Holy shit, Shield Bro, you're too amazing. You can even use a fire attack. Yushu exclaimed. Ha. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Only Lin Yi knew that this type of attack could only be used once. Could he go crazy again and force out so much fire poison? This time it was a complete coincidence. Luckily, the 3 Earth-class masters stood together and let him hit them. Otherwise, even if Lin Yi was lucky enough to burn 2 of them, the third would be even harder to deal with. Grandma Sun looked at Lin Yi stunned. She rubbed her eyes and frowned. She seemed to remember something, but it wasn't clear. Grandma, let's go back? Meng Yao said as she looked around. It was evening and there was no one else in the alleyway. She let out a sigh of relief. Lin Yi's move had been completed in an instant, or else the 3 Earth-class masters wouldn't have been able to escape. Oh. Grandma Sun came back to her senses after hearing Meng Yao's call. She quickly followed Meng Yao back to the yard. Yushu quickly locked the door. She was thinking about how to explain what happened before to Grandma Sun, so that Grandma Sun would keep it a secret and wouldn't tell anyone. Looking at the unharmed Lin Yi in front of her, Meng Yao felt like she was dreaming. Is it over? Is everything over? Shield Bro, you're really awake? That's great, I don't have to pick up trash anymore. Yushu looked at Lin Yi and screamed excitedly, you always wake up at the critical moment and kill everyone. You're so awesome. Haha, it's not the critical moment, I actually woke up a while ago. Lin Yi said with a smile, but something wasn't right. As expected, Meng Yao's face darkened. Just now? I didn't see you take off your clothes. Lin Yi said. Huh. Meng Yao's face darkened even more. You took off half of it and the 3 guys at the door interrupted you, so you put them back on? Lin Yi had to think of a way to make up for it. Oh, I know, that's why Shield Bro was so angry and burned those 3 guys to death. Yushu nodded. That's right. Lin Yi nodded. Lin Yi. Meng Yao raised her fist at Lin Yi. I'm not done with you. Chapter 1844. Chapter 1856. Invitation were your first and second wives, Yushu said with a serious face. I've forgotten what happened before? What did I forget? Q, are you scared out of your wits? Lin Yi looked at Yushu, not sure what she was up to this time. Ugh. Yushu looked at Lin Yi. He didn't look like he'd lost his memory, so she asked, then, who's your girlfriend? Girlfriend? Lin Yi blinked, a flash of confusion in his eyes. He wanted to say a name, but the name seemed to be right at the tip of his tongue. Could it be that he'd just woken up and his brain wasn't working yet? But after a moment's thought, Lin Yi thought of the name. It's Feng Xiaoxiao. Didn't she go to the Ice Palace to train? Why'd you ask that all of a sudden? However, he felt that something wasn't quite right after he said that, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what exactly was wrong. Feng Xiaoxiao. Shu couldn't help but realize that Lin Yi only forgot about Tang Yun, but he knew everything else besides Tang Yun. Yushu had wanted to lie about Meng Yao being his first wife, but it didn't seem like that was going to work. Meng Yao blinked at Yushu, telling her to stop meddling. It seemed like Lin Yi had really forgotten about Tang Yun. It's nothing, Shu's always been a little paranoid, you know that. Meng Yao glared at Lin Yi. He'd have woken up a long time ago if she wanted to deal with him in the future. Why didn't he say anything? Peeping Tom. But as she cursed in her heart, Meng Yao had a weird feeling. She was even blaming those 3 for being so nosy showing up at this time. What would have happened if they hadn't shown up? Had Lin Yi seen her? Why would he do that? Did he like her? Meng Yao couldn't help but worry at the thought. Grandma Sun, thank you for taking care of me these days. Lin Yi turned around and respectfully thanked Grandma Sunday, little miracle-working doctor. You're treating me like an outsider. My old illness has been cured by you for many years. I should be the one thanking you. Grandma Sun quickly waved her hand and said, as for taking me in, it's just a coincidence that I'm grateful. This is also God's arrangement. How do you know she is Grandma Sun? Have you been sober these days? Meng Yao wasn't stupid. She thought of something after listening to Lin Yi's words. Her face reddened as she glared at Lin Yi. Of course not. I could only hear your voices before. I only woke up after Yao Yao gave me the medicine. Lin Yi quickly explained. As for using his perception to see the outside world, Lin Yi hid it. If he told the truth, the miss would probably be furious. Humph. The miss snorted. She didn't believe Lin Yi's words completely, but she didn't question it either. Grandma Sun, what happened before? Linny looked at Grandma Sunday. He wanted to say something but stopped. After all, the things that happened before were too shocking and strange for a normal person like Grandma Sunday. Linny was afraid that Grandma Sun would spread the news. Just now. My eyes were playing tricks on me. I didn't see anything. Grandma Sun shook her head and said, "You guys are not normal people. I won't cause you any trouble." Linny nodded, but he was still a little surprised at Grandma Sun's calmness. Those were 3 masters and they disappeared just like that. However, he was afraid that Grandma Sun wouldn't understand the meaning of masters. "Before school starts, we may still live here. Please forgive us for our intrusion. After school starts, we will move to Donghai. If you are interested, you can come with us to Donghai. At that time, the house will definitely be short of a housekeeper." Linny felt that Grandma Sun was a kind person after observing her for a while. It should be a good thing to keep such a person by his side. When they go to Donghai, Faubert wouldn't be able to help with the housework like he was doing now. These things would eventually fall to Linny, and Linny couldn't guarantee that he would always be at home, so having a housekeeper was the best thing. Mengyao was a little surprised. She didn't expect Linny to invite her. But she immediately understood what Linny meant. She snorted and said, "Lazy. You said it. We're good friends now. I'm not a follower, nanny and bodyguard anymore." Linny smiled. "Okay, this is what you said. The living expenses of the family will fall on you. We don't have money to pay Grandma's salary anymore." Mengyao couldn't help but laugh at herself. She was right. What right did she have to ask Linny for? She was no longer the miss she used to be. "You guys are too polite. If you don't mind me, I'll go with you. As for the salary, it doesn't matter. As long as you give me food to eat, it's fine." Grandma Sun said cheerfully. She had no children. She was alone. She could go anywhere. Besides, she could see that the 3 of them weren't bad people. She had always been grateful to Linny for saving her. "Okay, but I'll still pay you." Linny was full of confidence when he said this. Although Linny couldn't use the fire poison chi from before, this move alone was enough to scare off all the hidden houses that had ulterior motives towards him. At least in the short term, Linny wouldn't have any more trouble. As long as Linny had a chance to breathe, he would be able to take back everything that he had lost. The only thing that Linny regretted was that other than the fire poison chi, the deviation didn't bring any benefits to Linny. Linny didn't break through either. He was still at the early phase of Earth class. Hidden House Zhao. Zhao Qibing, Kong Mingming and Yu Huixing sat in the meeting room. Their faces were full of fear. The 3 of them ran back like stray dogs. House Zhao was shocked, but they didn't dare to be careless. Zhao Qibing kept repeating the same thing. "Dead, all dead. What happened? What happened? Why did you all run back?" The old man of House Zhao didn't participate in the family meetings anymore. He usually let Elder Bai take care of things, but this time he sat in the main seat himself with Elder Bai and Guangyin on his left and right. Yu Huixing was a coward, but he was still an early phase of Earth class. His mentality wasn't something Zhao Qibing and Kong Mingming could compare to. Target equals underweight. Chapter 1845. Once bitten, twice shy. Elder Zhao earlier. That Linny killed 3 Earth class masters with one move. Yu Huixing explained what he saw to Elder Zhao. But Yu Huixing was too far away and he couldn't see the details. He could only describe what happened according to his own understanding. "What? One move?" Elder Zhao's face was full of shock, as if there was something wrong with his ears. That Linny, wasn't he possessed? How could he kill 3 Earth class masters with one move? Plus, Zhao Guanger is an Earth class late phase. How would I know? Yu Huixing smiled bitterly. "Elder Zhao, that Linny is an expert at pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. It's not a secret anymore. He used to pretend to be injured to lure his enemies in for revenge, and every time his enemies would return with heavy losses. According to my observations, Linny must have learned some kind of powerful technique, or his strength has reached the peak of the Earth class late phase." Elder Zhao's eyes widened, feeling like his brain wasn't enough to process all of this. He looked at Zhao Qibing and Kong Mingming. "You guys were nearby? Yu Huixing, is what you said true?" It was an extremely rude question, but Elder Zhao was a sky class now, so Yu Huixing didn't dare voice his dissatisfaction. "Grandpa, I wasn't far from there. Mr. Yu Huixing's words are all true. It really was one move, and that Linny killed 3 Earth class masters." Qibing's eyes flashed with fear at this point. Evidently, the scene had left a deep impression on him. If you don't believe me, Grandpa, the car's camera recorded everything from afar. With Qibin's confirmation, Elder Zhao knew that there were no more delusions. Lin Yi really did kill 3 Earth-class masters. Grandpa Zhao's heart was bleeding. He didn't care about the others, but Zhao Guang'e was an Earth-class late-phase master, a pillar of the Zhao family. How could he die just like that? From Elder Zhao's perspective, other than Elder Bai and Zhao Guangyin, Zhao Guang'e was one of the future sky-class masters of House Zhao, but now, if they had known that Lin Yi was this strong, why would they even bother messing with him? Grandpa, I've said it before that Lin Yi's a wolf in sheep's clothing. But Qikun was gloating inwardly. Lin Yi was fine and he was showing off his prowess. House Zhao had lost a master, but it didn't matter as long as he took control of House Zhao. With Lin Yi's support, House Zhao would still be one of the top few hidden houses. Elder Zhao looked at Qikun, a light flashing in his eyes. Qikun felt a chill in his heart, but he still acted like he was in the right, not backing down. After a while, Elder Zhao nodded. Qikuan's right. Out of all of us, only Qikuan has fought with Lin Yi in the Ice Palace's test. He knows what Lin Yi is capable of. If we had listened to Qikuan, we wouldn't have suffered such heavy losses. Qikuan was a bit dejected. He had been hoping to use House Zhao's power for revenge, but now it seemed that Lin Yi was already the strongest under Sky Class. He killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move, one of which was an Earth-class late phase. Even an Earth-class late-phase peak wouldn't be able to do that, but Lin Yi had done it. If he wasn't the strongest under Sky Class, then what was he? It seemed that unless his grandpa did it himself, who else could touch Lin Yi? But although the Hidden Noble House Association only existed in name and couldn't do anything to the Hidden Noble Houses, there were still the ancient sects above the Hidden Noble Houses. The ancient sects wouldn't allow Sky Class masters to interfere with the common world. This was the agreement between the ancient sects. Although the Hidden Noble Houses weren't the ancient sects, if the ancient sects followed the agreement, then what were the Hidden Noble Houses? It's fine, we'll learn from our mistakes. That Lin Yi likes to act weak, so let's not mess with him for now. Elder Zhao said that, but he had no other choice. If he could, he would have just killed Lin Yi, but that wasn't possible. Qibing, for this period of time, go back to the family and train. Don't interfere with Lin Yi's matter. Elder Bai agreed. If Lin Yi killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move, then even Elder Bai, an Earth-class late-phase peak, wouldn't dare say that he could kill Lin Yi. Yes, Qibing said helplessly. Yu Huixing, Kong Mingming, we House Zhao won't interfere with Lin Yi's business for now. Whether or not your houses continue to be enemies with Lin Yi, that's your business. Elder Zhao said decisively. All right, Elder Zhao, I'll be going back to report to the head as well. Yu Huixing smiled bitterly. He knew that there was no hope for revenge from Lin Yi now. He killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move. Shuixing's death wasn't in vain. I'll be leaving too. Elder Zhao, farewell. Kong Mingming was even more dejected. House Zhao wasn't going to interfere, and House Yu seemed to have given up as well. What right did House Kong have to go against Lin Yi? As House Zhao carefully studied Lin Yi had already brought Meng Yao and Yushu to Songshan's First People's Hospital. The worried Faubert stood up when he saw Lin Yi, excited as if he'd been injected with chicken blood. You're done? I'm done. Lin Yi nodded heavily and turned to Faubert. Thank you for worrying about me these days. Faubert paused. He understood immediately that Lin Yi was referring to Pingzhan's bankruptcy, the fact that Faubert still stayed by Pingzhan's side despite the risk of enemies. Lin Yi naturally was grateful for this. But Faubert didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mr. Chu and I have been friends for more than 10 years. You're treating me like an outsider. Ah, that's true, Lin Yi nodded. He'd only known the miss for half a year, and in terms of time, Faubert was a lot longer than him. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. I'll go see Uncle Chu. Faubert quickly stepped aside and invited Lin Yi into the ICU. How is it, Lin Yi, can you save Dad? Meng Yao knew that Lin Yi had a 90% chance of doing something, but she was still worried about her father's safety. It's not a big problem, Lin Yi looked at Pingzhan's condition. As long as he's still breathing, he'll be fine. Spanspan class equals, edit under monsieur, are you alright? Faubert was overjoyed. Spanspan class equals, edit under Meng Yao was very emotional when she saw Pingzhan wake up. Spanspan class equals, edit under why am I in the hospital? Pengzhan didn't know what was going on, and he was even more surprised when he saw that Lin Yi was fine. Didn't Lin Yi go berserk? How did he recover? Could he have recovered? Why was he in the hospital? Spanspen class equals edit under normal Pengzhan's words stunned everyone in the room. Spanspen class equals edit under you lost your memory? Faubert asked subconsciously. It was the only explanation. Why else would Pengzhan ask such a question? Spanspen class equals edit under memory loss? Why would I lose my memory? Pengzhan asked, confused. Spanspen equals edit under didn't you commit suicide and end up in the hospital? Faubert was confused. Spanspen class equals edit under I committed suicide? Why would I commit suicide? Pengzhan was even more confused. I'm alive and well, my body is healthy, my daughter is beautiful, and Lily is such a good junior and a friend like you, Li Fu. Why would I commit suicide? Spanspen class equals edit under your company's bankrupt. Li Fu said. Had Pengzhan really lost his memory? Did he even forget about the company's bankruptcy? Spanspen class equals edit under fonandol. Even if I went bankrupt, I wouldn't commit suicide. Pengzhan frowned. My father went bankrupt when he was young too. It's normal for people to experience ups and downs in life. Why would I commit suicide? Spanspen class equals edit under Faubert wanted to ask something else, but Lin Yi interrupted him. Spanspen class equals edit under you didn't commit suicide? Lin Yi's sharp senses told him that something wasn't right. He hadn't asked Pengzhan about the details of the company's bankruptcy, but according to his impression of Pengzhan wasn't the kind of person who would let a company go bankrupt, and he definitely wasn't the kind of person who would commit suicide after going bankrupt. Spanspen class equals edit underscore font under normal. Pengzhan had been struggling against Guangbo, Jin Gubong and the others back then, but now he was committing suicide? Spanspen class equals edit under of course not. Pengzhan shook his head. Spanspen class equals edit underscore font under normal. Faubert and Meng Yao looked at each other, surprised and doubtful. If Pengzhan didn't commit suicide, then the car accident earlier. Spanspen class equals edit under font under normal. Lin Yi shrugged and looked at Meng Yao and Faubert, asking them to explain since Lin Yi didn't know the details. Spanspen class equals edit underscore font underscore normal. Meng Yao took out her phone and played Zhang Wen's explanation to Pengzhan. Faubert, on the other hand, took out the traffic accident certificate, stating that Pengzhan was the one who walked into the car on his own. Spanspen class equals edit under Yao Yao's right, I did invest willingly. Pengzhan nodded slowly, but after nodding, a trace of doubt flashed across his eyes. But why did I do that? There's no reason, why would I do that? Spanspen class equals edit under Mr. Hu, I tried to talk you out of it, but maybe you were blinded by money, that's why. Faubert sighed. Spanspen equals edit under Lin Yi frowned. Something's wrong, something's wrong. Spanspen class equals edit under normal, something's wrong? Faubert and Meng Yao froze and even Pengzhan looked at Lin Yi in surprise. Spanspen class equals edit under normal. This video must have been spliced and some things were cut out. Lin Yi said. It's very detailed, but I have a friend who's a computer expert and I've learned a thing or two from her. I can't do it, but I can tell. Spanspen equals edit under Zhang Wen's lying? Meng Yao paused and anger flashed in her eyes. Spanspen class equals edit under font under I don't know if he's lying, but he's definitely hiding something. Lin Yi said. Plus, Uncle Chu's attitude is completely different from before. Even if he's mad, it doesn't make sense. Plus, Uncle Chu said he didn't commit suicide, so there must be something hidden. Spanspen class equals edit under that's right. Faubert listened to Lin Yi's analysis, and Pengzhan's denial of suicide after waking up made him feel that something was wrong. Spanspen class equals edit under Langwen? Leave it to me. Lin Yi said. I'll go take the company back. Spanspen class equals edit under normal, but we don't have proof. Faubert hesitated after listening to Lin Yi. Spanspen class equals edit under why do we need proof? Lin Yi shrugged and smiled. I just want the company back, not proof. Spanspen class equals edit under like. Chapter 1847. Return of Property. Chapter 1859. Return of Property. Faubert paused and understood what Lin Yi meant. He looked at Lin Yi with respect. Of course, if he had seen the scene just now, he would have been even more shocked. Only someone like that would be able to say such domineering words to kill 3 Earth-class mid-phase masters in one move. Lin Yi left in peace. The news had probably spread already, and anyone who dared to cause trouble for Pingzhan and the Miss now was either an idiot or someone who wasn't afraid of death. Of course, Lin Yi didn't expect one move to make all the hidden houses stop. It wasn't realistic. When they realized that Lin Yi was only in Earth-class early phase, they'd show their fangs again. But at least for now they didn't dare. Lin Yi only needed to buy them some time. As long as he continued to practice the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, Lin Yi was confident that his strength would increase to another level. Housen, this was Jiang Wen's villa. However, Mingyue and Mingri and Jianda and Jiang Wen were all sitting in the living room. Something big had happened today, and as one of the 5 little houses, the members of the Firewolves, they were naturally the first to receive the news. Lin Yi didn't lose his mind and instead showed off his prowess, killing 3 Earth-class masters in one move. One of them was even an Earth-class late phase. Housen is in danger. And Mingri said as he looked at Jiang Wen. He was more active than anyone when they took over Pingzhan's assets, but he was also the first to jump out when there was trouble. Jiang Wen, it's not that I want to criticize you, but making a move without understanding the situation will bring trouble to Housen. If we're talking about trouble, Big Brother sending people to kill Pingzhan, isn't that more troublesome? The assets are small but lives are more important. Do you think Lin Yi will let this go after knowing about it? Jiang Wen looked at Jianda and smiled coldly. This is Housen's problem and we'll shoulder it together. Lin Yi has no proof even if he refuses to admit it. But if someone leaks the news, then we'll all die together. Jianda's body shook. He hadn't fought with Lin Yi before, but he'd heard that Lin Yi killed 3 Earth-class masters with one move. That wasn't something he could compare to. So, after hearing Jiang Wen's words, Jianda's eyes flashed with worry as he looked at his father. And Mingri sighed. He wanted to use this opportunity to attack Jiang Wen, but it seemed like everyone had a part in this. Plus, Jiang Wen was highly valued by the Firewolves, and even if they were to go against Lin Yi with the Firewolves' protection, Jiang Wen would be fine. After all, the Firewolves had a sky class and no matter what, they could still protect Jiang Wen's life. But it was different for the others. Jianda was the mastermind of the car accident. If Lin Yi knew the truth, he'd probably look for Jianda first. Okay, we'll all keep our mouths shut. Don't talk nonsense. Do what you're supposed to do. Don't let Lin Yi see through us. And Mingri said, Jiang Wen is right. As long as he doesn't have proof, he can't do anything to us. Who said that we can't do anything to you without evidence? A voice came from behind the crowd, startling everyone. Before, when they were discussing, they'd closed the doors and windows. How could there be another person in the living room without a sound? Plus, this voice was very familiar. And Jiang Wen knew who it was immediately. A trace of fear flashed across his face, but he smiled immediately. Isn't this brother Lin Yi? Uncle Chu's car accident was caused by you? Lin Yi ignored Jiang Wen and walked towards Jianda with big steps. A trace of fear flashed across Jianda's eyes. He shook his head. No. It's not me. Everyone knows that he crashed the car himself. There's the car recorder and the witness to testify. He said it was you who did it. I heard it all. Lin Yi raised his chin and pointed at Jiang Wen's direction. Don't listen to him. No, it was him who ordered it. He's the mastermind. He planned to embezzle House Chu's assets. And Jianda was a coward. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been doing the organ trading business so honestly. Jiang Wen, on the other hand, directly kidnapped people to cut their kidneys. Oh, he can't run either. Lin Yi slapped Jianda's face. Do you know? I hate people like you who don't take responsibility the most. You did it. Why are you pushing it to others? Jianda's face swelled up instantly. He was just a normal person. How could he be a match for an Earth class like Lin Yi? If Lin Yi wanted to kill him, one move would be enough, but Lin Yi didn't. Instead, he was torturing him. Lin Yi would return all the pain Pingzhan had suffered to Jianda. And so, before Jianda could say anything, Lin Yi kicked his crotch. Jianda's eyes bulged as he howled, his body curling up like a cooked lobster. Climax kick. This was the ultimate technique of Lin Yi's mistress. She tried it on Lin Yi's master before, but it didn't work. Lin Yi had learned it. However, this move was a bit more vicious. Lin Yi didn't usually use it, but against people like Jianda, Lin Yi only hoped to make him suffer a bit more. That way he could make him pay for what he'd done to Pingzhan. What are you doing? And Mingri's eyes flashed with anger. But when he thought of Lin Yi's glorious battle record today, he didn't dare to do anything to Lin Yi. What do you mean? Trespassing? If you don't stop, I'm going to call the police. Oh, go ahead. I happened to record your conversation just now. Lin Yi said faintly, but his hands didn't stop for a second. He threw another heavy punch, knocking Enjenda to the ground. And Mingri didn't expect Lin Yi to record. He was in a dilemma. Calling the police was just to scare Lin Yi, but the things Lin Yi had in his hands were disadvantageous to Housen. If he called the police, Housen would be in trouble. If you let him go, I'll return all of Pingzhan Industries' properties to you. And Mingyue sighed in her heart. The situation was hopeless. House N's efforts were in vain. It wasn't that Mingyue felt sorry for Enjenda. The problem was that after Lin Yi dealt with Enjenda, he'd definitely turn around and deal with other people. Instead of letting Lin Yi do it, why not take the initiative to express goodwill? We'll settle the properties later. Lin Yi's foot landed on Enjenda's spine, making a crisp sound. Even if Enjenda didn't die from this stomp, he'd be crippled. Ouch! Enjenda cried in pain. Chapter 1848. Overbearing Lin Yi, you know the pain now? But it's still early. Lin Yi said calmly, Uncle Chu, your spine is broken, your internal organs are bleeding, and you have more than 20 broken bones. Your brain is severely injured and there are many blood clots. I will help you create these injuries. Lin Yi, don't go overboard. And Mingri roared in grief and indignation. Is it too much? Why didn't he think it was too much when he asked someone to hit Uncle Chu? As Lin Yi spoke, he began to create injuries on Enjenda's body. These injuries could only be caused by Lin Yi. Otherwise, even if Enjenda was saved, he would be in a vegetative state. Jiang Wen's face twitched at the bloody scene in front of him. At first he thought that he was ruthless enough, but now that he saw Lin Yi stepping on people expressionlessly, Jiang Wen realized that Lin Yi was the real demon. Of course, that was under the premise that he was provoked. Otherwise, the guy seemed harmless. All of Pingzhan's businesses plus 1 billion. Jiang Wen stated his conditions. He knew that he wouldn't be able to escape from Lin Yi's grasp. If even 3 Earth-rank experts couldn't escape, then what did he have to do? And so, Jiang Wen gave him the condition to save his life. Is 1 billion a lot? Lin Yi turned to Jiang Wen, leaving the lifeless Enjenda behind. I wasn't involved in the accident with Uncle Chu. I even gave Yao Yao 100,000 after the accident to help her with her medical expenses. Jiang Wen said. Add another 2 billion to the offer. All right, give it to me. Lin Yi nodded expressionlessly. And Mingyue sighed and went upstairs. All the documents were in the safe, but he didn't dare run. If he did, then Jiang Wen and Mingri and Enjenda wouldn't be able to walk out of this room alive. Although Lin Yi looked very amiable on the outside, he had made Enjenda look half human and half ghost just now. It was clear that the rumor of him killing 3 Earth-class experts with one move today was true. And Mingyue took out the authorization documents and the share certificate, signed them one by one and handed them to Lin Yi. He then made a phone call and transferred 2 billion to Lin Yi's account. Jiang Wen was rich, but giving away 2 billion was a huge blow to Housen. The money Pingzhan had borrowed from them was completely fictitious and didn't exist at all. As a result, Housen didn't get anything out of this at all, instead losing 2 billion. We've given you everything, can you let us go now? Jiang Wen asked. The item was mine to begin with. Did I say I would let you go? Lin Yi asked calmly. You. Jiang Wen's face reddened. He was furious at Lin Yi's words. Lin Yi wanted to say something, but he frowned. At this moment, Lin Yi felt a strong aura approaching the villa. Earth-class late phase peak. He was an enemy, not a friend. Lin Yi didn't even need to think to know that a master of this level was probably up to no good. The next moment, a man in black appeared in the living room of Housen. He glanced at everyone present and didn't pay much attention to Enjenda, who was lying on the ground like a dead dog. His eyes stopped on Lin Yi. You are Lin Yi? The man in black looked at Lin Yi and asked. You are. Lin Yi took a deep breath. He didn't expect to meet such a master here. You don't need to know my name. You just need to know that I'm here on orders from the Fire Wolves gang to protect Jiang Wen and his family. That's enough. The man in black didn't hide his strength at all. Earth-class late-phase peak was completely revealed. Ha! Lin Yi was shocked, but he smiled faintly. Lin Yi didn't use the art of dragon mastery. He didn't have any aura on him. Of course, Lin Yi did this on purpose. If he revealed his Earth-class early-phase strength now, the man would be even more fearless. I know you're strong. You can kill 3 Earth-class masters in one move. One of them was even late-phase. The man in black looked at Lin Yi and smiled. He wasn't sure of Lin Yi's bottom line. However, I don't think you've reached Sky class yet. Your strength is at most the same as mine. It'll be hard for you to stop them in front of me. Then what do you think? Lin Yi asked calmly. Lin Yi knew that the reason why an Earth-class late-phase peak could speak to him in such a polite tone was because of the effect of him killing 3 Earth-class masters in one move. But if he showed any fear now, then what awaited him would be a storm of attacks. You've heard of the Fire Wolves gang, right? The man in black asked. If you leave, then we'll be fine. If you insist on stopping Jiang Wen, you might be able to win against me by a stroke of luck. But what awaits you is the Fire Wolves gang's revenge. Make him break his own legs and I'll leave. Lin Yi pointed at Jiang Wen and said in an unquestionable tone. The man in black pondered and looked at Lin Yi. To be honest, the news that the Fire Wolves gang received couldn't be fake. Lin Yi killed 3 Earth-class masters in one move. So the man in black couldn't be sure if he was a match for Lin Yi. If Lin Yi's skills were really that strong, then even if the man managed to win 1 or 2 moves, he'd pay a heavy price. So after some hesitation, the man in black didn't say anything. He waved his hand and Jiang Wen groaned in pain, kneeling on the ground. With Lin Yi's eyesight, he could tell that the man in black only broke Jiang Wen's leg. It was a small injury. But Lin Yi didn't dwell on it. Being able to make an Earth-class late-phase peak surrender was already a great achievement. Goodbye. Lin Yi cupped his fist and walked out of the villa. From the beginning to the end, Lin Yi didn't use qi. He walked out of the room like a normal person. Looking at Lin Yi's back, the man in black didn't stop him. His mission this time was to protect Jiang Wen's life. He'd already done it. Naturally, he wouldn't cause any more trouble. He really couldn't see through Lin Yi's strength. There was no need to make him an enemy. The man in black didn't need to worry about Lin Yi and Jiang Wen. Fu. Lin Yi's aura made in Mingyue and in Mingri sweat. When Lin Yi left, they fell to the ground. Send Jianda to the hospital. And Mingri suddenly remembered his son's safety and shouted. Chapter 1849. Lucky escape. The man in black walked quickly to Jianda's side and looked at his wounds. He shook his head. With this kind of injury, even if he recovers, he'll still be in a vegetative state. Unless he has the Meridian Opening Pill and Recovery Pill from the Sky Elixir School, he won't be able to survive. After Mingri heard about the Sky Elixir sect, he became listless. What kind of existence was the Sky Elixir sect? Naturally, he knew that even the leader of the Fire Wolf gang was on the same level as them. Such a precious pill, if it was used on Jiang Wen, it might be possible, but if it was used on Jianda, it was absolutely impossible. Although Jiang Wen's leg was in pain, he could still endure it. He looked at Jianda, who was lying on the ground, and a strange figure flashed in his eyes. According to the professor, his senior brother is an expert in medicine, even better than the professor. Why don't we ask the professor's senior brother to help? Maybe he can save big brother's life? Okay, then I'll have to trouble you, nephew Jiang Wen. And Mingri said quickly. He knew how hard Lin Yi was, and Lin Yi was an expert in medicine. If he did it himself, Jianda wouldn't be able to live. But since there was a ray of hope, he had to grab it. Please bring my big brother back to the Fire Wolves. As for asking the professor's senior brother to help, I'll talk to him, Jiang Wen said to the man in black. Okay. The man in black wasn't Jiang Wen's follower, but he wouldn't reject a request like this. Even the leader wanted him to protect this person, so he must be someone the leader valued greatly. Maybe this person would be even more successful than him in the future. One had to know that in the Fire Wolf gang, it wasn't completely determined by strength. There were also strategists and doctors who did scientific research. These people's positions were all very high. The Fire Wolves gang was a gang, and although they were as strong as the ancient sects, they were still a gang. Their structure was different from the ancient sections. This medicine, Mr. Jiang Wen, please take it. It's good for your broken leg. The man in black was one of the guards of the leader, so naturally he had many kinds of medicine with him. One of them was to heal a broken leg. Thanks a lot. Jiang Wen took the medicine and swallowed it. In an instant, a cooling sensation spread through his entire body. His legs weren't as painful as before and Jiang Wen's furrowed brows relaxed. Looking at Jiang Wen's face, and Mingri was extremely envious. He looked at his son and sighed in his heart. Hopefully the professor's senior brother had a way. Lin Yi walked out of Jiang Wen's villa for a kilometer before letting out a sigh of relief when he saw that there was no one chasing him. He felt lucky. Today at the Yin family's villa, Lin Yi was purely relying on the power. Relying on the power of killing 3 Earth-ranked masters today, the black-clothed man did not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, perhaps Lin Yi would have been left there today. Revenge was taken, Pingzhan's assets were taken back, and he even got an extra 2 billion. This was a very fruitful result, and Lin Yi was very satisfied. As for Jiang Wen's life, he didn't mind taking it for now. With the fire wolves behind him, Lin Yi couldn't mess with them now. This was also the reason why Lin Yi didn't kill Jiang Wen every time he fought with him. But even so, Jiang Wen didn't gain any advantage. Not only did he lose a kidney, but he also gave Lin Yi a lot of money. This kind of money tree, it would be a waste for Lin Yi to kill him. But as for Enjianda, Lin Yi didn't have anything to worry about. He could see that the fire wolves didn't value him much at all. Although he killed 3 Earth-class masters in one hit today, Lin Yi didn't let the victory get to his head. He knew his own strength, and it was already very difficult for him to fight against a hidden house, not to mention a huge monster like the firewolves. Of the 3 Earth-class masters that appeared at the door today, Lin Yi knew one of them and heard of the other one, but he didn't know who the strongest one was. Of course, now that he had turned into ashes, Lin Yi couldn't ask anymore. Yu Lu, Mengyao and Yushu mentioned before was the one who followed them that day. As for Right 13, Lin Yi had fought him before, and the only one Lin Yi didn't know was Zhao Guang'er. Hidden House Yu and House Kong. Lin Yi sighed. All this while Lin Yi didn't want to face the Hidden House Yu, he didn't want to face them head-on. Part of it was because of Yu Bing, but more of it Lin Yi knew very well. It was because of that girl. But now he destroyed the common house Yu, killed Yu Lu, and this grudge was formed. Although it wasn't an irreconcilable grudge, if Lin Yi couldn't find a way to resolve this grudge, then this grudge wouldn't be let go easily. As for House Kong, it was time for them to retaliate. The news of Lin Yi killing 3 Earth-class spread like wildfire to every household in the city. Elder Lu Jinhu of the Lu family naturally beamed with joy. Lu Jinghan, on the other hand, looked at her embarrassed father and smiled without saying a word. Lu Tianyi, on the other hand, let out a long breath. Although he had his father's support, House Lu's entire fortune was placed on Lin Yi. This was too risky. Old Wu Gonggao and Old Sun, on the other hand, slapped their thighs in regret. If they'd known that Lin Yi liked to play dumb like this, they wouldn't have wavered this time. During the last meeting of the noble houses, even Lin Yi's lackeys Qin Yutian and Wu Qintian had learned to play the trick. Why didn't they believe that Lin Yi would play the same trick this time? But while help in a time of need was precious, adding flowers to a brocade was inappropriate. Gonggao and Elder Sun wanted to salvage the situation, but what could they do now? Once Lin Yi woke up, they wouldn't be able to help him. Gonggao and Elder Sun could only call Wu Qintian and Sun Jingyi, telling them to try their best to build a good relationship with Lin Yi. Qintian and Sun Jingyi, on the other hand, felt helpless. Although they despised their old man's actions, they would still build a good relationship with Lin Yi even if the old man didn't say anything. Fatty Lai, Kong Xiaobo, Sun Jingyi, Wu Qintian, Qin Yutian, Ling Shan, and even Guan Xiumin all came to Pingzhan's ward. They didn't know where Lin Yi was, but from their point of view, Lin Yi would come to the ward the moment he woke up. Kong Xiaobo also went on a holiday with Fun during the summer. He just came back and found out that something big happened at home. Chapter 1850. Chapter 1862. Sorrow. But Kong Xiaobo was just a vice president of the company, even the general manager couldn't do anything about it. What could he do? His family wasn't rich either. A tea house was enough to keep his family afloat, but it was hard to come up with funds that could turn the situation around. But Kong Xiaobo still said that if Pingzhan needed money, he could have his family sell the tea house first. Faubert had already received Ming Yao's remittance, so at least the medical fees weren't a problem anymore. In the ward, everyone saw Ming Yao and Yushu. Lin Yi wasn't there, but Pingzhan was awake, evidently having received Lin Yi's help. Only Lin Yi could heal a dying person so quickly. Meng Yao and Yu Shu on the other hand had a grudge with Ling Shan, but Ling Shan had risked her life to stop Yu Lu, and Yu Shu and Meng Yao remembered that. They knew that she did it for Lin Yi's sake, but no matter what, the three of them didn't fight each other like they did before. As for getting along well with each other, that was impossible. At most they could just pretend that Ling Shan didn't exist. Mr. Chu, Mr. Li, I'm truly ashamed that I couldn't get my son to help you with your medical fees. Xiumin was here to apologize as well. Elder Guan, don't say that. Faubert knew the truth of the matter, and he knew that Xiaoxiang and Xiumin were at odds with each other because of Lin Yi's medicine company. Now that the company was bankrupt, how could Xiaoxiang be nice to the people around Lin Yi? Yeah, Elder Guan, it's all my fault. If I didn't do that, we wouldn't be in this situation today, Fatty Lai said with a bitter smile. I can't blame anyone. I can only blame myself for going crazy and wanting to invest in futures, Peng Zhan said with a wave of his hand. I, on the other hand, am flattered to have so many friends helping me think of a way. But I know that it's all because of Yi, so I have to thank them. Peng Zhan's words were sincere. He'd heard Faubert and Ming Yao's stories about the tough times they'd gone through, and he'd learned that there were no friends in the business world. These friends were all Lin Yi's friends. Even Xia Guangbo, who sent the money, did so because of Lin Yi. This filled Peng Zhan with a myriad of emotions and gratification at the same time. He had come to Songshan alone, and in just half a year he'd already built up such a strong network of friends. This was something Peng Zhan could only dream of. However, after experiencing this huge change, he had also changed his mentality. Starting a new business was a must, but at the same time he wanted to make friends that would take care of him. He didn't want to waste his time on work. In a daze, Peng Zhan seemed to have returned to his younger days, back to the days when he and Wan Er were hiding from the Dark Palace. The friend he'd met back then was a true friend. For him, he'd gone through mountains of blades and seas of fire, facing the entire Dark Palace, forcefully forcing them to give up on killing him and Yao Yao. Otherwise, the Dark Palace wouldn't have let Peng Zhan and Meng Yao go so easily, but the Dark Palace had compromised. But 10 years had passed, and where was that friend now? Sometimes, when he thought of the past, Peng Zhan would blame himself for being too young back then. There were many things he didn't ask clearly. His father, on the other hand, got along well with him, but whenever Peng Zhan asked about his friend's whereabouts, his father would be very secretive. You're too kind, Mr. Chu. Fatty Lai said with a smile. You're an elder, we don't deserve your thanks. But now that boss has woken up, it's not too far away for us to make a comeback. Yeah, it's all in the past. Peng Zhan sighed. We've lost a lot, but we can start over again. Although the words sounded very encouraging and shocking, Fatty Lai and Peng Zhan knew how hard it was to start over again. Fatty Lai was fine as long as he had Lin Yi's support. The medicine company would definitely rise again. But Peng Zhan was a businessman. How hard would it be to start over again? Right, why isn't sis-in-law Tang Yun here? Kong Xiaobo realized that an important person was missing in the room. Tang Yun. Meng Yao and Yu Shu were both here, but Tang Yun was missing. It didn't make sense. In this period of time, other than Kong Xiaobo, everyone knew where Tang Yun was, so they avoided the topic. But Kong Xiaobo had just returned, so naturally he didn't know about this. Meng Yao's heart ached when she thought of Tang Yun, and she slowly told them about Tang Yun. Kong Xiaobo couldn't help but feel sad after listening to her. He couldn't see her anymore? The others already knew about the situation, but after hearing Ming Yao's story, they still felt sad and disappointed. I heard that Boss Lin Yi killed 3 Earth class masters with one move, and one of them was even a late-stage Earth class. How powerful was that? Lao Shu, you guys were there, right? Can you tell me what happened? Yu Tian saw that everyone was sad and he gave Yu Shu a look. Although Lin Yi wasn't here, he could come back anytime, so he changed the topic. Yeah, Yao Yao sis and I were there and we saw it. Yu Shu immediately understood and started narrating. The situation was like this. Yao Yao sis and I had just returned home. Just when Yao Yao sis and I didn't know what to do, and those 3 people wanted to kill us and General Wei Wu. Shield Bro was like a god descending from the heavens, and he stood in front of us and said one word to the 3 Earth class masters. One move. Yu Shu's vivid description made everyone feel like they were there, especially when Lin Yi said the word one move. Their blood boiled. What kind of confidence did he have to be able to face 3 Earth rank masters with such arrogance? Plus, Lin Yi wasn't bragging, he really did it, killing 3 Earth-class masters with one move. This was a legend to the same level masters. Even a late-stage peak Earth-class master couldn't say that he could kill 3 early-stage Earth-class masters with one move. After all, although the difference in strength was important, it wasn't as important as before. In a battle between Earth-class masters, the key to victory was martial arts. Chapter 1851. Chapter 1863. The bitterness of Faubert. If an Earth-class early-phase master trained in a powerful martial art technique, he or she might be able to defeat an Earth-class early-phase master who trained in a normal martial art technique. He or she might even be able to defeat an Earth-class mid-phase master who hadn't trained in any martial art techniques. It was just a split second. How could you describe it in such detail? Lin Yi smiled as he walked into the ward. He was surprised when he heard Shu's description. He didn't think much of it at the time, but after listening to Shu's description, Lin Yi finally understood how powerful the fire poison chi was. At the same time, Lin Yi sighed. This fire poison chi could only be used once. It would be perfect if it could be used multiple times. But Lin Yi knew that it was just a fantasy. It was too heavy a price to pay for going berserk. Boss. Yutian Qintian Fatty Lai and Kong Xiaobo stood up at the same time. Although they knew that Lin Yi was safe, they were relieved when they saw Lin Yi. "Ha, you're all here." Lin Yi nodded at them. "Boss, my grandpa. He didn't bring the money." Qintian looked at Lin Yi apologetically and said awkwardly. "My family do. My grandpa, you know." Sun Jingyi was also embarrassed. "Boss. Something like this happened at home and I'm still playing outside with Fen." "Really?" Kong Xiaobo's face was red. "It's nothing. You guys are you and your home is your home." As for Kong Xiaobo, it's summer break. It's normal for him to go out and play. "Didn't I leave too?" Lin Yi waved his hand. As for Qintian and Sun Jingyi, Lin Yi couldn't make House Wu and House Sun be friends with him like they were, so Lin Yi didn't blame them at all. As for Kong Xiaobo, Lin Yi didn't have any complaints. Didn't he brought Meng Yao and Yushu out to play as well? Lin Yi was confused at the thought. He remembered that there were more than 3 people who went to West Star Village, but how could he remember 3 people? Yes, there was General Wei Wu and Skybolt Pig. But something wasn't right? Lin Yi shook his head. He had just woken up from the jade space and his thoughts were a bit messed up. Faubert only noticed Sun Jingyi now. Of course he saw Sun Jingyi before, but he didn't look so closely. Seeing Sun Jingyi speak, he couldn't help but pay more attention to Sun Jingyi. She looked familiar and he couldn't help but think of his wife from back then. He felt sad. Sun Jingyi gave Faubert a natural sense of closeness. This was his wife's descendant. Faubert's eyes were a bit wet. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't reveal his identity, he would have wanted to reunite with Sun Jingyi. He was her uncle. It was said that nieces were like aunts. Looking at Sun Jingyi, Faubert seemed to see his wife from back then. He resisted the urge, turned his head and didn't look at Sun Jingyi anymore. He sighed in his heart. Maybe one day he could take his revenge. Master, wife, daughter, all of them disappeared. Even the sex treasures were all taken by those people. If it was before, the thought of revenge wouldn't be so strong. But after seeing Sun Jingyi today, thinking of his missing wife, and witnessing Lin Yi's power of killing 3 Earth Rankers in one move, Faubert felt his blood boiling. Lin Yi was in the early phase of Earth Ranker and he could already kill Earth Rankers. What if Lin Yi was a Heaven Ranker? Would he be able to kill a few Heaven Rankers in one move? Although it was a bit shocking, Faubert was confident. When Lin Yi was in Mystic Ranker, he was the number 1 under Earth Ranker. He had just reached Earth Ranker and he already had such a battle record. Heaven Rankers must be even more powerful. As long as Lin Yi was willing to help, revenge was not a dream at all. Thank you. Pingzhan saw that Lin Yi went out and he knew that he was going to seek justice for him. But seeing that Lin Yi came back so soon, he thought that Lin Yi didn't find any traces of the Yin family. He said, although this incident might have been planned by the Yin family, we don't have any evidence and we can't find them. Forget it, we'll learn from our mistakes. Let's start from the beginning. There's no need for evidence. The car accident was done by Jiang Wen's brother and Mingri's son and Jianda. I've already stomped him to death. Lin Yi smiled and said innocently, Jiang Wen used the shares and property rights of these industries, plus 2 billion in cash to exchange for his life. But there was an Earth-class late-phase peak at the scene, so I only made him break his own legs. That's too easy for him. Everyone present took in a cold breath after hearing Lin Yi's words. An Earth-class late-phase peak at the scene? And Lin Yi was able to stomp Jianda to death, make Zhang Wen break his own legs, and hand over the shares and property rights of these industries, plus 2 billion in cash. This was unbelievable. Of course, no one thought that Lin Yi was joking. After all, Lin Yi had killed 3 Earth-class masters in one hit. Making an Earth-class late-phase peak back off wasn't something too difficult. Uncle Chu, the shares and property rights are yours. I'll return them to you. Lin Yi said, a little embarrassed. But I'm afraid I can't give you the 2 billion in cash. My medicine company is also in danger. Peng Zhan froze. He didn't expect Lin Yi to say that. Being able to take back the shares and property rights was already out of his expectations. Even if Lin Yi didn't return them to him and took them for himself, Peng Zhan wouldn't say a word. After all, it was Lin Yi who took them back with his own strength. It belonged to Lin Yi. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was giving it back to him, saying that he was sorry. Peng Zhan was a little surprised. What are you talking about? You're the one who took these shares back, they're yours in the first place. You don't have to give them to me, let alone the 2 billion. Fatty Lai, who had been depressed, suddenly straightened his back when he heard that Lin Yi had brought back 2 billion. A smile blossomed on his face. Before, he was still worried about the problem of capital. Even if Lin Yi had the prescriptions, it wouldn't be able to turn the situation around in an instant. After all, the factory was already in debt. A few prescriptions wouldn't solve any problems. The reason why House Kong was able to rise so quickly was because of House Yu's support. With House Yu's connections, it was a piece of cake for them to help House Kong acquire some small medicine companies. Chapter 1852. How to deal with it. Chapter 1864. How to deal with it. The initial funds and prescriptions were all provided by House Yu, and with the help of House Kong, they were able to rise again. But Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was different. Without money, all the prescriptions were useless. His brother had drawn a line with him a long time ago, and Fatty Lai wouldn't borrow money from him. Uncle Chu, these things belong to you in the first place. I have no use for them. Besides, we don't have to be so clear with each other, do we? Lin Yi smiled. When I was going crazy, it was all thanks to Yao Yao's care. She helped me brew medicine every day, or else I wouldn't have woken up so quickly. You're right. I'll take the shares and property for now, but they'll belong to you and Yao Yao sooner or later, Peng Zhan said. Lin Yi pretended not to notice, but the miss blushed. She sneaked a glance at Lin Yi, and let out a sigh of relief when she realized that he didn't notice anything. Uncle Chu, let's go back. The villa is back in our hands now, Lin Yi said. I'm a little tired, I want to go back and rest. In fact, Lin Yi was in a hurry to continue practicing the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. The enemies were too strong, and Lin Yi didn't have any new trump cards to use against stronger enemies. That was why he was in such a hurry to practice. All right, I'll leave the hospital now. Peng Zhan nodded. Wu Chintian, come with me. The others can go back and rest. Lin Yi said to Yutian Lingshan and Sun Jingyi, Fatty Lai, accompany me later. Tell me about the medical company and we'll see how we can defeat Dr. Kong. Chintian and Fatty Lai said at the same time. Although the medical fees couldn't be reduced due to Guan Xiaoxiang's interference, Xu Amin's face was still quite useful in other aspects. Peng Zhan's request to leave the hospital didn't meet with any questions or obstructions at all. The procedures were completed without a hitch. The group went downstairs and Lin Yi realized that there was no car. He slapped his forehead. Zhang Wen, that bitch, I forgot to ask him for a car. At that time, Lin Yi wanted to leave the villa as soon as possible so that the black-clothed man wouldn't notice anything amiss. He forgot to drive the car back. Oh, it's fine, it's just a car. Peng Zhan, on the other hand, didn't mind. This was the best outcome he could have hoped for. He'd gotten the property and the shares, and the other stuff was secondary. Lingshan and Yutian both had cars, but it was their own. Otherwise, they would have sold their own cars to support Peng Zhan. As for Xiaobo and Fatty Lai's company car, it was towed away by the bank a long time ago. We'll send everyone back. Yutian pointed at Lingshan and his car. All right. Lin Yi nodded and got in the car with the others. On the way, Fatty Lai told Lin Yi about the company's bankruptcy, and he apologized to Lin Yi sincerely. Right, the car is still under the overpass. I'll go get it together. Let Wu Chintian go with you guys. I'll be worried, Lin Yi said. Okay, boss. Wu Chintian, Meng Yao, and Yushu went to get the car and pick up General Wei Wu and Skybolt Pig. Lin Yi, on the other hand, went to his room and poured all the products from Dr. Kang's medical company on the table. He started studying them one by one. The first one Lin Yi opened was Dr. Kang's golden creation. Lin Yi could clearly feel that it was different from before. It could be said that this golden creation was completely different from Dr. Kang's golden creation. It was more like a jerry-built version of Lin Yi's injury medicine. Chapter 1853. A call from a superstar. This person wasn't as good at medicine as Lin Yi, but it was good enough that he could reach this stage. House Kong had a master behind them after all. Lin Yi's suspicions were further confirmed after he saw the golden creation's shoddy materials. It wasn't possible to make a big deal out of this golden creation, so Lin Yi put it aside. If Lin Yi wanted to reverse the situation, he had to create some negative impact on Dr. Kang's medical company. Even if Lin Yi didn't understand business, he knew this simple logic. Otherwise, even if Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company came up with a similar product, it wouldn't be able to reverse the situation. Fighting a price war wasn't going to work anymore, because Dr. Kang's medical company also had control over low-cost medicine. The next target was the special edition of Golden Creation. For the 299 yuan special edition, Lin Yi didn't need to look to know that House Kong must have changed the formula. This wasn't the skin-beautifying golden creation from the auction, but a new product based on Lin Yi's special edition injury medicine. Otherwise, House Kong would lose a lot of money just by using the Millennium Snow Lotus. As expected, this was a very normal formula, an upgraded version of golden creation. Lin Yi took a sniff of the medicine and Lin Yi was shocked. House Kang's apothecary was quite skillful. After all, the ingredients he'd added were similar to the ones he'd added into the special edition injury medicine. But after a while, a confused look appeared on Lin Yi's face. There was no problem with the medicine, but to bring out the effect of the medicine, the special edition golden creation seemed to be missing one ingredient. Lin Yi's special edition injury medicine had it, but Dr. Kang's did not. But if it didn't have it, how could this medicine have the effect of removing scars? Lin Yi applied a little bit of the special edition golden creation on his hand. After a while, Lin Yi's face showed a look of understanding and happiness. Hormones. Although a small amount of this hormone was not harmful to the human body, it went against Dr. Kang's slogan of a pure herbal preparation with no side effects. This was an excellent point of attack. Lin Yi found a pen and paper and quickly wrote down the hormone content and test method of golden creation. He was going to give it to Fatty Lai tomorrow. After that, Lin Yi began to study Dr. Kang's 100 pain reliever. Although the smell of medicinal materials was very strong, when Lin Yi tasted it, he still tasted something unusual. Aminopyrene was a kind of chemical often used in Western medicine such as painkillers and cold medicines. Although it was widely used in many kinds of medicine, it was now used by the Kong family in the so-called pure herbal preparation Dr. Kang's 100 pain reliever. It seemed a little strange. I just came back from promoting overseas and heard about this. Do you need any help? Su Shihan asked. As the spokesperson of Miracle Dr. Guan's company, she often bought their painkillers. Naturally, she paid close attention to the company. She heard about this as soon as she came back, so she called Lin Yi immediately. Temporarily. No need, I can solve it. Lin Yi didn't expect Su Shihan to call. He was a little surprised. His relationship with Su Shihan wasn't that good, was it? But Su Shihan and Xiao Xiao were really close. It's okay. If you need anything, just tell me. Su Shihan said. Need? Lin Yi listened to Su Shihan's beautiful voice, and his imagination started to wander. Su Shihan's voice was soft and gentle, and it was hard for a normal man to not have his imagination run wild, especially when she said it so flirtatiously. Target equals underweight. Chapter 1854. Very angry, however, Lin Yi was a little annoyed. What was wrong with him? He was a little angry today. It must be because he wanted to peek at the miss and got interrupted. He had nowhere to vent, so he came to tease Su Shihan. Bastard pop-up window. Hearing the exaggeration in Lin Yi's tone, Su Shirhan frowned. In her impression, Lin Yi wasn't a frivolous person. He didn't even look at her. How could he say something like that? So, although Su Shirhan was a little annoyed, she still patiently said, "Yes, is there anything I can help with?" "There is one thing." Lin Yi heard the annoyance in Su Shirhan's voice. He immediately calmed himself down and said seriously, "I found out that Dr. Kang's medicine company has some chemicals in their medicine. It doesn't match their advertisement. When they have a press conference, can you help support them? With your influence, it will attract a lot of media." Of course, Su Shirhan agreed without hesitation. She was thinking, did she misunderstand Lin Yi? She just had to deal with a rich young master's pursuit abroad. Did she become a little sensitive? "Thanks, I'll get Fatty Lai to contact you when the time comes," Lin Yi said. "Okay." Su Shirhan heard that Lin Yi's tone was normal. There was nothing wrong with it. She let out a sigh of relief. After ending the call, Lin Yi continued to study the weight loss medicine. Every time he sniffed out a herb, Lin Yi noted it down on a piece of paper. He only stopped when he had identified all the herbs in the medicine. A normal doctor wouldn't be able to do this, but Lin Yi grew up in a pile of herbs. Ever since he started practicing the art of dragon mastery, he had become much more sensitive to things in the outside world. As long as he touched herbs, he would have a photographic memory. Even old Lin had to admit that he wasn't as good as him. But according to Zhang Liju's notes, this ability was related to a person's physique, and people with this kind of extreme sensitivity towards herbs, if they were to become a refiner, they would be able to walk to the top of the pyramid. Even Zhang Liju himself could only control a part of it. He wasn't very sensitive. Being able to guess 8 out of 10 herbs was already very impressive. The hidden house, you naturally didn't have such a master. Otherwise, they wouldn't have asked for Lin Yi's recipe. Kun. Of course, as happy as he was that he had this ability, his control over the refinement fire was too weak. It was a waste to have this ability but not be able to control the refinement fire. No matter how good he was, he wouldn't be able to become a refiner. At most, he would be the refiner's apprentice. He shook his head to get rid of those unrealistic thoughts and started to analyze the prescription in his hands. No poison, no side effects, no rebound, no dieting, healthy and natural weight loss. This was the slogan of Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine. But with the previous 2 medicines as an example, Lin Yi didn't believe that there was nothing fishy about this at all. Lin Yi really couldn't think of any use for these medicines together. Many of them didn't match at all, so how could it have the effect of weight loss? If it weren't for Lin Yi's confidence in his nose and mouth, he would have thought that he had made a mistake. Lin Yi furrowed his brows as he fell into deep thought. After a while, Lin Yi finally opened his eyes, a look of understanding on his face. This was 2 prescriptions, not 1. Lin Yi previously thought of it as a prescription, so naturally, there would be a lot of illogicality and contradictions. But if it was divided into 2 prescriptions, there would be no problem. However, after Lin Yi divided the pharmacy, there was a trace of anger on his face. A doctor had a benevolent heart. Although Lin Yi wasn't a good person and he wouldn't simply make a house call, as long as Lin Yi made a move, he would try his best to cure the disease of others. He wouldn't do it perfunctorily or cure this disease again and again repeatedly. In Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine, one of the prescriptions was nothing special. It was a very ordinary tonic prescription, but what made Lin Yi a little puzzled was that the people who wanted to lose weight weren't those who were dying. Why would they use this tonic prescription? Many of the medicines in this prescription could replace food to provide some nutrients to the human body, but only some people who couldn't eat by themselves would use the medicinal solution brewed from this prescription to maintain their lives. Nowadays, most people used glucose instead. It could be said that this prescription was almost no longer used by people. But after looking at the other prescription, Lin Yi understood why it needed to be nourished. The second prescription wasn't a cure at all. In Lin Yi's opinion, it was a scourge poison. This prescription could inhibit the function of the digestive tract, obstruct the digestion and absorption of food, and let the food be directly excreted from the body. Long-term use could even cause gastrointestinal dysfunction, or even damage the gastrointestinal function. The principle of these 2 prescriptions was also very clear. One used medicine to provide a small amount of nutrients to the human body, and the other prevented the digestion of the food that was eaten every day to achieve the goal of losing weight. But how was this losing weight? It was simply a scam. Short-term use could have an obvious effect, but long-term use would damage the stomach and intestines, and it would be too late to regret it. This kind of black-hearted money was what Lin Yi hated the most. The reason why no one found anything wrong with this prescription was that the person who made it was smart. He mixed the two prescriptions together. Even if someone found the prescription, they wouldn't be able to understand the principle behind it. Only people like Lin Yi, who had a considerable talent in pharmacology, medicinal properties and identification of medicinal herbs, could see the flaws in it. Perhaps this was the main reason why the Kong family openly sold this product without fear. Lin Yi recorded the testing method and medicinal properties of the weight loss medicine. He completed an important task. To House Kong, naturally Lin Yi couldn't use the same method to deal with Housen. Although Lin Yi was a very domineering person, he had his principles. House En used extreme methods to deal with Pingzhan, so Lin Yi would use extreme methods to deal with them. However, House Kong, at least on the surface, used legal methods to compete with Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. If Lin Yi wanted to take back the market, naturally it would be best to use legal methods instead of forcefully seizing the market. That would damage Miracle Dr. Guan's reputation. As for the culprit, Right 13, he was killed by Lin Yi as well. Now that he was dealing with House Kong, he could use normal methods to destroy them. On the second day, the news of Pingzhan Industries changing ownership spread throughout the entire Songshan city. Chapter 1855. Martial arts calculation, but this time, it was back in Pingzhan's hands. Although they didn't know much about the secrets behind it, Pingzhan Industries was once again under Pingzhan's control. As for the small shareholders, Pingzhan didn't blame them. It was normal for them to flatter the new chairman. He could only blame himself for not having a few close friends. Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine company didn't return to business. After Lin Yi gave the testing methods and the flaws of Dr. Kang's medicine to Fatty Lai started to look for a professional testing report. He used the 2 billion Lin Yi brought back to buy back the factories and land that he sold at a low price. Although the buying price was higher than the selling price, it wasn't a big deal with House Sun and House Wu's support. Lin Yi only smiled at Wu Gonggao and Elder Sun's actions and didn't comment on it. He only told Fatty Lai that if they were willing to lend him the money, they should take it first. Businessmen always cared about profits, and Lin Yi only treated Wu Gonggao and Elder Sun as businessmen. After this incident, he would naturally compensate them with some benefits, but it was impossible for him to open his heart to them like House Lu. Of course, Lin Yi didn't expect Wu Gonggao and Old Sun to become friends. Lin Yi only befriended Wu Qintian and Sun Jingyi. As for the prescription to fight against Dr. Kang's medicine company, Lin Yi wrote it for Fatty Lai. Miracle Dr. Guan's medicine company started to return to business quietly, but they didn't release any products to the market. The people around Lin Yi all knew that Fatty Lai was waiting for the right opportunity. He was waiting for the testing report to come out and surprise everyone. School was about to start soon, and Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, had been preparing their luggage for the trip to Donghai. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had been practicing that weird technique in the second stage of the art of dragon mastery in his room. The practitioner's arts didn't have any actual moves, but from Lin Yi's point of view, since it was taken out from the cave, even if it was a support practitioner's arts, there had to be some logic behind it. He had to finish this before he finished the second stage of the art of dragon mastery. There might be even more powerful techniques waiting for him in the cave. As for the materials used to condense the jade pendant, Lin Yi asked about it through Fatty Lai's connections, but the results disappointed Lin Yi. There was only blue crystal powder, pure topaz and colored steel. Fatty Lai said that he could try to find it through his connections. As for the remaining two, pure topaz was something that could only be found by luck. As for the colored steel, he had never heard of it before. Xuemin, on the other hand, was acquainted with a reputable collector and jade sculptor. Perhaps he had pure topaz in his possession. This news made Lin Yi quite excited, and he decided to pay that master a visit when he had the time to see if he could get his hands on pure topaz. As for the colored steel, Lin Yi could only leave it to fate. The people around him didn't know what it was, and that colored steel was something that Lin Yi had never seen before. How could steel be colored naturally? These few days of practicing at home, he didn't gain much. The second stage of the art of dragon mastery was obviously much more difficult than the first stage. Lin Yi had been practicing for so many days, but he was still stuck at the initial stage. He could only use it with familiarity, and this was the foundation he'd laid down when he forced out the fire poison. Otherwise it would be even more jerky. The 10 stages of the technique, on the other hand, allowed Lin Yi to reach the 3rd stage directly. He didn't feel any pressure at all, and he was moving towards the 4th stage. Of course, the technique also stated that the first 3 stages were for early Earth class practitioners. In other words, even if Lin Yi reached the 3rd stage, he wouldn't be able to reach the 4th stage without reaching mid-Earth class. Since that was the case, Lin Yi naturally slowed down his practice. As he moved towards the 3rd stage, Lin Yi realized that it was getting harder and harder to go any further. Although he was about to step into the 4th stage, he was still a little bit away. This was the bottleneck of his strength. In the remaining time, Lin Yi picked up the technique that Faubert had given him, Frenzy Fist. Before, perhaps because of the technique, Lin Yi's practice of this technique was a little jerky, and he didn't make much progress. When fighting against enemies, he couldn't bring out the effects of this technique. However, Lin Yi knew that this technique was definitely not an ordinary one. Back then, Faubert was the young master of some sect. The technique that he practiced must have been very powerful and definitely not an ordinary one. The reason why Lin Yi couldn't practice it was purely because of himself. But now, since Lin Yi couldn't find a more suitable technique in the cave, he could only continue practicing the technique that Faubert had given him. There was no one around him who could ask him about the technique. Old Lin didn't have anyone, and his master wasn't by his side. He could only rely on himself. Frenzy Fist had a domineering name. From the name, it could be seen that Faubert must have practiced a fire elements practitioner's art. As for what it was, Lin Yi didn't ask, because Lin Yi couldn't give up on the art of dragon mastery and practice another practitioner's art. Every cultivator could only cultivate one natal mental cultivation method. If they cultivated too many, not only would they not be able to achieve anything, they would instead be restrained and would not be able to achieve anything. Furthermore, if they cultivated 2 mental cultivation methods that countered each other, it was very likely that they would suffer from qi deviation. That was why Lin Yi was so careful when choosing the arts for Mengyao and Yushu, and didn't make any random arrangements. He didn't know why, but whenever Lin Yi thought about the past, especially the things related to Mengyao and Yushu, his heart would throb for no reason. It was as if he had forgotten something, but at the same time, it felt like it was only natural. Frenzy Fist, first form. Lin Yi had practiced this form no less than 100 times, but he still couldn't fully grasp it. The second and third forms were even more out of the question. Lin Yi couldn't use them at all. He couldn't even activate the first form, let alone the others. This was also the reason why Lin Yi failed every time he faced an enemy. At this time, Lin Yi practiced again, but he didn't expect that he would succeed on the first try. He'd failed 8 out of 10 times and only succeeded twice. He hadn't used it for more than half a month, and the chances of him succeeding on his first try were too low. He hadn't used it for more than half a month and his skills were rusty. Lin Yi's 2 fists pushed out. It was a simple punch, but it contained a huge amount of power. Chapter 1856. Once it was successfully unleashed, it was like the water of the Yangtze River surging over, as if it was a wildfire that covered the mountains and the plains. The huge fire aura was frightening, and even Lin Yi, who was the one using it, was shocked by the power that was unleashed at full power. When the first form of Frenzy Fist was successfully executed, Lin Yi didn't feel anything at first. But as the mental cultivation method revolved in his body, he pushed the first form of Frenzy Fist to its peak. This made Lin Yi extremely shocked. It wasn't because of the huge power of the Frenzy Fist. Lin Yi had felt this before, but because this was the first time Lin Yi executed the first form of Frenzy Fist so thoroughly. Although Lin Yi had the experience of successfully activating it before, he had never executed this move so skillfully and with such great power. Looking at his fists that seemed to be wrapped in red flames, Lin Yi was surprised. Perhaps this was the true power of the first form of Frenzy Fist. If he had executed this form earlier, then when he faced the blue-haired guy, Lin Yi wouldn't have needed to compress the chi bomb. He could have just used Frenzy Fist directly to finish off the blue-haired guy. Because the blue-haired guy was just a guest of the Yu family, the martial skill he mastered wasn't any core powerful martial skill. Therefore, the first form of Frenzy Fist was enough to finish him off. However, this first form of Frenzy Fist, under the activation of Lin Yi, didn't seem to have any intention of stopping. The continuous fire shadows that filled the sky reflected the entire room in red. If it wasn't for Lin Yi choosing an open space to practice his martial skill, he would have burned the bed and the desk. Frenzy Fist Second Form. Lin Yi had already memorized the chant of the second form by heart. It was just that he hadn't been able to execute it. But at this moment he executed it naturally, as if everything was so natural, smooth like flowing water, without the slightest sense of obstruction. It was as if the first style had been unleashed to its limit, and naturally transformed into the second style. It was completely different from the time when Lin Yi used it alone, where he was unable to unleash it at all. The power of the first style was already very strong, but when the second style was released, Lin Yi knew what it meant to pale in comparison. Waves of heat surged in the room, and even as a practitioner, Lin Yi was sweating profusely from the heat. What an overbearing martial skill. Lin Yi thought to himself, how heroic was Faubert back then? No wonder when he mentioned the things that happened in the past, there was a trace of pride and nostalgia. As for the martial technique, when Faubert taught it to Lin Yi, he did not explain much. It was entirely because of the problem of matching the mental cultivation method. Lin Yi did not cultivate Faubert's mental cultivation method, so no matter what, he would not be able to display the martial technique to the extreme. Even if he boasted about it to the heavens, Lin Yi would not be able to activate it, so it was better not to mention it. Fire. But Faubert did not expect that Lin Yi would actually be able to activate it miraculously, and it was a success on the first try. At this moment Lin Yi's fist was like a burning comet, and Lin Yi's body was like a fire spirit, releasing a huge amount of fire energy. Frenzy Fire Fist Third Style. Lin Yi's body turned, and he actually activated the third style that he had never tried before. When this style was used, Lin Yi's face was filled with horror. Previously, Lin Yi had never activated the third style of Frenzy Fire Fist, because he could not activate the second style and he was not familiar with the first style. It was impossible for Lin Yi to bite off more than he could chew to study the third style. But at this moment when the third style was activated, it was as if he had practiced it 1,000 times, and it was released so naturally. Of course, these three styles were naturally practiced in Lin Yi's mind 1,000 times, but it was only in his mind. Lin Yi could not activate it himself, so he would certainly simulate it in his mind, but the power would be far from the real thing. Although Lin Yi's fist did not hit the wall or the furniture, after the third style of Frenzy Fire Fist was used, the heat wave caused by the third style had a posture of burning the wall and the furniture. Lin Yi hurriedly stopped the move and stopped practicing. The third style of Frenzy Fire Fist was indeed extraordinary. Although it was far from the powerful heat brought by the fire poison chi, Lin Yi was absolutely sure that he could win against an enemy of the same rank or slightly higher rank. Lin Yi had experienced Blue Hairs and Right 13's martial arts. Blue Hairs was negligible, but Right 13's martial arts were quite domineering. But now, even if he faced Right 13, who was in the middle phase of Earth rank, even without the fire poison chi, Lin Yi was confident that he could win. Of course, this was under the condition that he could successfully activate the third style of Frenzy Fire Fist. If he could not activate it, then Lin Yi would only be sending himself to his death. The heat wave in the room had not yet dissipated, and in this scorching heat, Lin Yi's mood was surging and excited. He comprehended the three styles of Frenzy Fire Fist just like that. Lin Yi knew that he was not a martial arts genius, but he was able to comprehend three powerful martial arts in an instant. This made Lin Yi a little suspicious. What was the reason for this? Chapter 1857. Simulation Technique, Part 2. At this moment, there were only 8 words in Lin Yi's mind. Continuous, carefree and unrestrained. Lin Yi practiced this technique for a full half an hour before slowly stopping. At this moment, Lin Yi understood that he had finally mastered this technique. As for how he mastered it, he could only ask Jiao Lao. Lin Yi himself was at a loss. Lin Yi let out a long breath and suddenly realized that there were a few more people around him. Because he was in his own yard and because he was so excited, he didn't pay attention to the things around him. It wasn't until he finished the skill that he realized there was someone beside him. He was slightly startled. He had been careless. Although Lin Yi's name was like the sun in the sky, and no one would dare to challenge him, there was always a possibility. What if an enemy showed up? What if an enemy ambushed him while he was practicing the technique? Although the possibility of an ambush was very small under such a domineering technique, it was better to be careful. Yao Shu Faubert Chinti on your back? Lin Yi had just finished speaking when he realized that the four of them were looking at him with shock and disbelief. It was as if he had done something amazing. Shield bro, are you practicing the technique that killed the 3 Earth class masters that day? Yushu asked. You've mastered the 3 forms of Frenzy Fist? Faubert was very surprised. You used this technique against the 3 Earth class masters that day? Although they had heard that Lin Yi had killed 3 Earth class masters in one hit, Lin Yi didn't say how he did it. Uncle Fu and the others were curious but they didn't ask. Only now did they open their mouths to ask. Uncle Fu, you're the one who taught me these 3 styles. You should know how powerful they are. Is it possible to kill 3 Earth class masters in one move and burn them to ashes? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. I don't think so. Faubert shook his head. But the power I used back then wasn't as great as yours. Although I'm familiar with it, it's still lacking compared to you. Lin Yi heard Faubert's words. He actually surpassed Faubert back then? Why did it sound so funny? One had to know that Lin Yi wasn't even familiar with it before today. I'm ashamed. I've trained for many years, but I can't compare to you who's trained for a few months. Uncle Fu blushed with shame as he said, but Master was able to use the 20th form of the Frenzied Fire Fist. It wasn't difficult for him to instantly kill 3 Earth rank experts. Actually, I only practiced for an afternoon. Lin Yi scratched his head, a little embarrassed. Faubert sucked in a breath of cold air. An afternoon? He knew that Lin Yi wouldn't lie to him, so it was only natural that he'd said he'd spent the whole afternoon. But Lin Yi being able to learn the first 3 forms of the Frenzy Fist in a single afternoon was the only word Li Fu could use to describe Lin Yi as a genius. What happened to you is way too strange. You were able to repair both Mai and Qintian's meridians, so it's not strange at all that you spent the whole afternoon learning the Frenzy Fist. Lin Yi himself didn't know what was going on. Could this be the legendary sudden enlightenment? But Lin Yi was full of anticipation for the last few forms of Frenzy Fist. The 20th form could kill 3 Earth class masters with one move. Wasn't that what Lin Yi was looking forward to? So Lin Yi quickly asked, Faubert, do you have the last few forms of Frenzy Fist? I only have the first 10 forms. The 11th form is something only Sky class masters can use. I didn't memorize the chant at the time. Faubert said. Lin Yi blinked. Then what's your master's level? Sky class. Faubert said. Cough. Lin Yi almost choked at Faubert's words. A Sky class master killing 3 Earth class masters with one move wasn't something to be shocked about, was it? This made Lin Yi a little disappointed. How could there be such a thing in this world? If someone of the same level could kill 3 in one move, wouldn't that make them invincible? Actually, before I met you I really didn't know which practitioner it was, but to be able to kill 3 practitioners. Uncle Fu smiled bitterly. Actually, for a Sky class, if it's a Sky class early stage, wanting to kill 3 Earth class is a very difficult thing, not to mention 1 Earth class late stage. That day it was an accident. Lin Yi didn't hide anything from Faubert and the others. They were his people and they wouldn't harm him. I forced out all the fire poison chi from my body and used it to burn 3 Earth class masters to death. It wasn't any martial arts technique. I see. Faubert and Qintian nodded. They had been wondering how Lin Yi could kill 3 stronger Earth class masters in one hit, even though he was only an early stage Earth class. Shield bro is the best. He actually knows how to make use of trash. Yushu said. Mengyao was speechless as well. If Lin Yi didn't make use of trash, would they be able to escape? However, after activating the 3 forms of Frenzy Fist, Lin Yi felt an indescribable tiredness. He didn't feel anything when he activated it, but now that he stopped, he felt as if half of his chi had been used up. It wasn't enough to affect his movements, but he was really tired. Faubert, does this Frenzy Fist use up a lot of chi? Lin Yi asked. Naturally. Faubert paused after hearing Lin Yi's words, but remembered that Lin Yi didn't even know martial arts techniques. But it's not that Frenzy Fist uses up a lot of chi, it's that all martial arts techniques use up a lot of chi. The higher the level of the technique, the more so it is. Even in a battle between masters, they can't use martial arts without limit. Otherwise, they'll die of exhaustion before they kill the enemy. I see. Lin Yi nodded. However, the qi used up by martial arts techniques is very easy to replenish. It's different from other ways of using qi. Faubert said. Although martial arts techniques require a large amount of qi to activate, it doesn't completely release the qi after using it. A part of it is converted into other ways of staying in the body. As long as you rest, it can be converted into qi again. It's that magical? Lin Yi was surprised. But thinking about it, it made sense. If it was really hard to recover, who would use martial arts techniques in the first place? It wouldn't be worth it if all the hard work they put into training was gone. Chapter 1858. It's not really magical. These are all basic knowledge that all cultivators know. As for a freak like you, there are very few people who don't know about your strength. Faubert smiled bitterly and shook his head. Lin Yi was slightly embarrassed. Indeed, his master had left a long time ago. Although old Lin had cultivated an internal mental cultivation technique, it was only a supplementary mental cultivation technique, not to mention any martial techniques. The only person who could guide him in the path of martial arts, Jiao Yazi, was an illusory body with incomplete memories. Often his memories were incomplete and he had to recover them. This made Lin Yi feel very bitter. Then, starting from the 11th form of the Frenzied Fire Fist, I am unable to activate the remaining 10 forms. Is it because I do not have enough true qi in my body? My strength hasn't reached that level, so I can't provide the corresponding amount of true qi to activate the martial skill? Lin Yi asked. You could say that. However, that is not entirely the case. If you exhaust all the true qi in your body, you should still be able to use the next move. However, that is usually a method to save your life in a life or death situation. Faubert said, because the Jin Qi required to activate the next move is not something that my current strength can withstand. After activating it, not only will my entire body enter a very weak state, it will also be impossible for my Jin Qi to recover completely. This is because the method that the next move will transform into will not be converted back by the current level of the inner force cultivation method. In other words, it will drop a level. But at this point, Faubert looked at Lin Yi with astonishment and envy. What's wrong? Lin Yi was a little creeped out by Faubert's stare. Theoretically speaking, you should have fainted. Faubert smiled bitterly and said, it's normal for an early Earth class to be able to use the first form of the Frenzy Fist. At best, they might be able to use the second form, but the third form? That's something that can only be done by a peak early Earth class. He hasn't fainted yet. So, the theory I mentioned earlier. Maybe it doesn't apply to you. Actually, I'm a little tired too. Lin Yi sweated. Could this be the effect of the art of dragon mastery? Although Lin Yi felt that he had consumed a lot of true qi, he did not feel tired and powerless. Faubert was speechless. At night, before Lin Yi entered the space of the jade pendant to cultivate, he couldn't wait to report what had happened today. He told it to Jiao Yazi. Jiao Lao, am I a genius? Lin Yi asked after recounting his strange encounter today. He added another sentence in a very arrogant manner. Pfft, Jiao Lao was about to explain when he burst out laughing. I say, little Lin, aren't you a little too smug? Some geniuses cultivated the art of dragon mastery for 10 years. You haven't even completed the first level? Lin Yi was a little embarrassed. I was just saying. Today when I was practicing the Frenzied Flame Fist, it was as smooth as flowing water. There wasn't any sense of obstruction. This feeling is as if the Frenzied Flame Fist was tailor-made for me. That's true, but not exactly. To be precise, it's tailor-made for you to practice the Frenzied Flame Fist. Jiao Yazi said. What does that mean? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He asked. During this time my memory has slowly recovered. Although it's not complete, it's enough to answer some of your questions. Jiao Yazi said. Do you have any questions? Didn't I ask before? Lin Yi said. Oh, you're talking about practicing martial arts. That's normal. Jiao Yazi nodded and explained. The art of dragon mastery can produce all-purpose true qi. In other words, the art of dragon mastery is an all-purpose mental cultivation method. In terms of martial arts practice, you can practice any martial arts. So, it's not that the martial arts are tailor-made for you, but you tailor-made for the martial arts. It can't be? Lin Yi was shocked after hearing it, but he was also ecstatic. Doesn't that mean that I can practice whatever martial arts is powerful, and I don't have to worry about finding a martial arts that matches my mental cultivation method? That's it. Jiao Yazi nodded. Now you know the benefits of the art of dragon mastery, right? Then, why can't I practice it before? After Lin Yi calmed down, he had some doubts. I've practiced the frenzied flame fist countless times before, but I've never practiced it skillfully. It's always very jerky. That's because you didn't practice martial arts and the second level of the art of dragon mastery. You can't do without either. Jiao Yazi said. The first level of the art of dragon mastery is only applicable before the earth rank, which is the so-called foundation building stage. For practitioners, the stage before the earth rank is the stage to build the foundation. Only when you reach the earth rank can you practice martial arts. This is a turning point. I see. Lin Yi suddenly understood. In other words, practicing the second level of the art of dragon mastery is the mental cultivation method that matches with martial arts? You can say that. However, although the mental cultivation method is an all-purpose mental cultivation method, it can only be converted into all-purpose vital energy. If you want to practice martial arts, you need to convert the mental cultivation method into a corresponding mental cultivation method that matches with other martial arts. So you need another conversion mantra. Jiao Yazi said. Is it that martial art? Lin Yi thought of the martial art that he brought out from the cave. That's right. That martial art can also be called an all-purpose martial art. Chapter 1859. Jiao Lao, you are right. Lin Yi nodded solemnly. He was so shocked that he started sweating. Just now, for a moment, Lin Yi had the feeling that he was the best in the world. But now that he thought about it, it was an abnormal sense of confidence. If it wasn't for Jiao Yazi's timely reminder, he might have gone down the wrong path. If one were to blindly pursue learning more martial techniques, one might not even know which martial technique to use when facing an enemy. If one were to think too much and waste time, one would have long been beaten to the ground by the enemy. I was just saying. It's good that you remember it. Jiao Yazi nodded. Oh right, last time how did I go mad? After Lin Yi recovered, he was busy practicing and didn't have time to ask about it. You still don't know? Jiao Yazi was startled. I don't know either. You don't know either? Lin Yi was even more surprised. After I fainted, what happened? You don't know? I don't know. My connection with the outside world is through you. You were unconscious, how would I know what happened? Jiao Yazi shook his head. Plus, only when you and I are actively connected, can I sense what's happening outside. Other times I am closed off. Looks like I can only ask Shu and the others. After Lin Yi woke up, he asked Yao Yao and Shu about his cultivation going mad. But they simply told him what happened. Under old Lin's guidance, they went to Snowy Valley to ask for an ice spirit fruit. As for the process, they didn't go into details. Mrs. Personality was like this. No matter how much she paid, she wouldn't show it off. Lin Yi knew that although the ice spirit fruit wasn't as important as the ice palace's fire spirit fruit, they must have paid a great price for it. It was just that the eldest miss was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. She was unwilling to take credit. What made Lin Yi feel strange was that even though Missy didn't say anything, little Shu didn't say anything either. She didn't use her gossipy eloquence to tell him what happened. Lin Yi thought that perhaps it was because the eldest miss had given her a gag order. There's no need for that. Tell me what you did before you went berserk. I think something went wrong somewhere. Jiao Yazi said. All right. Lin Yi nodded and told Jiao Yazi everything that happened before he went berserk. After listening to Lin Yi's words, Jiao Yazi sighed speechlessly. What's wrong? Lin Yi was puzzled by Jiao Yazi's behavior. Bratlin, what do you mean by haste makes waste? How many times have I said it before? A tall building starts from the ground, but you actually used another medicine to replace the body refining medicine. It would be strange if you didn't go berserk. Jiao Yazi smiled bitterly. How can the resting grass be replaced so easily? That's the key to calming the mind. But you replaced it, so it can't do the same. Isn't it normal to go berserk? This. Lin Yi's face instantly turned red. Before, he didn't ask Jiao Yazi for advice. He used his own knowledge of medicine to replace one of the ingredients, But the result was unexpected. 5 years? Why did I give you a 5-year limit? I'm afraid that you're too young and impatient. That's why I've set a 5-year limit on you. Jiao Yazi was disappointed that Lin Yi didn't live up to his expectations, but I didn't expect that after 10 years, your impatience still hasn't been polished. Really, it's because 10 years is too long. That's why I'm a little impatient, Lin Yi said embarrassedly with a red face. Next time when you refine the jade, I hope you won't make the same mistake. Otherwise, not only will you fail, you might even make me disappear, Jiao Yazi said. It won't happen next time. Lin Yi nodded and promised, next time I will definitely follow the instructions strictly. The product launch of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company started under everyone's shock and doubt. The crowd didn't understand. Didn't Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company go bankrupt because of Dr. Kang's medical group? Why did they make a comeback again? It wasn't that there weren't these kinds of companies that made a comeback after going bankrupt, but to be able to make a comeback in less than a month, this was a little rare. Because of this, a lot of media came to Miracle Dr. Guan's product launch with curiosity, especially with Su Shirhan's presence. Many entertainment media came as well. This was the effect of a celebrity. So the revival of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company and their new product attracted the attention of all kinds of media. In an instant, even the prepared seats weren't enough. Many media that came to interview could only stand at the side and watch. Luckily, it was an open-air product launch, so it could be seen from nearby. House Kong received the news that Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was reopening and had a new product. Although it was within House Kang's expectation, the speed still made Dr. Kong a little speechless. Father, don't worry too much. Even if Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company reopens and has a new product, they still don't have the strength to compete with us. They're cheap, we can be cheaper. Plus we're an old brand and they're new. Who do you think the consumers will choose? Kong Guifeng saw that Dr. Kong was a little worried, so he said, Yeah, Grandpa, we have the support and prescription of the hidden house. Why are we afraid of Miracle Dr. Guan? Xiaolong comforted. But only Kong Mingming didn't say anything. These few days Kong Mingming had been quiet. He was scared by Lin Yi's strength. The 13th right was eliminated, and although the hidden house didn't say anything, they didn't send anyone else. This made Kong Mingming very uneasy. He was afraid that Lin Yi would come at any time. After all, he was involved in the kidnapping of Guan Xian. If Lin Yi pursued this matter, the first person to die would be him, Kong Mingming. Xiaoming, why aren't you saying anything? Dr. Kong looked at Kong Mingming. Grandpa, I'm a little scared. I have a feeling that Lin Yi won't let this go. He will definitely take revenge on us. Kong Mingming hesitated and said. Dr. Kong frowned. Why do you say that? Xiaoming, what nonsense are you talking about? House Kong relies on fair competition. Even if Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company competes, it's just a normal business method. We have the price advantage and the prescription advantage. How can they compete with us? Kong Guifeng looked at Kong Mingming and scolded. But there was no need to spend more money. And here I was wondering what kind of tricks he could play. It seems like father was worried for nothing. Kong Guifeng, who was standing in the middle of the crowd, smiled coldly and said to Xiaolong, You only know how to repeat what a parrot says, you don't know how to innovate, and the price is ridiculously high. It'd be a miracle if they could win against House Kong like this. Yeah, I don't know what that Kong Mingming is worried about all day. If Lin Yi wanted to find him, he would have done it a long time ago. Why would he wait until now? Look at Peijian Industries, how much Housen took in, how much they spit out. This is the startup capital of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Maybe it's all compensation to Lin Yi. One had to admit that Xiaolong's prediction was very accurate. Hit the nail on the head. What's the use of that? Let's go back. Other than Su Shirhan's fans, no one will buy their products, Kong Guifeng said. But just as the two were about to leave, they heard Fatty Lai's voice again. The new product launch has ended here. But before Su Shirhan performs, I still have to criticize the unethical practices of a certain brand in the industry. All the media heard this news and went into an uproar. In the entire launch, Fatty Lai's words were the most interesting to them. Before this, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's products weren't competitive at all, which made them think that this launch was a failure. But they didn't expect this to be the main point. Kong Guifeng's eyelids twitched and he stopped in his tracks. At the moment, the only company that could compete with Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was Dr. Kang's medical group. If they wanted to expose something, they would naturally expose something related to Dr. Kang's medical group. Father, let's stay and see what they have to say. Xiaolong laughed coldly. If they were to spout nonsense, they could sue them for defamation. At this moment, Fatty Lai took out a report from an authoritative organization and started talking about it. Although he didn't say what brand it was, the products he was talking about, such as Golden Creation Special Edition, 100 Pain Disinfectant, and Weight Loss Medicine, were all popular products of Dr. Kang's medical company. Now that he took it out, everyone knew who he was talking about. When Fatty Lai accurately pointed out the chemical ingredients in the medicine and the harm of the weight loss medicine, Kong Guifeng and Xiaolong's faces changed instantly. They knew the chemical ingredients in Golden Creation Special Edition and 100 Pain Disinfectant, especially since Xiaolong was in charge of the entire research and production, so he wasn't unfamiliar with these two drugs. However, the hormone and aminopyrine weren't illegal drugs. Even if they were added, the most they could do was hide it. But the weight loss medicine was simply harmful. However, this prescription was given by the hidden House Yu, and no one in House Kong could understand the pharmacology and effects of the prescription. Although Xiaolong was a professional in this field, he couldn't understand the pharmacology and effects of the medicine. Now that Fatty Lai suddenly exposed it, both of their faces turned green. The negative effects of the Golden Creation Special Edition and 100 Pain Disinfectant were easier to deal with. After all, the hormone was also used to treat illnesses. Aminopyrine, pain reliever and cold medicine also contained this chemical. But that weight loss medicine was basically the death of House Kong. If what Fatty Lai said was true, then Dr. Kang's medical company would face unprecedented pressure. Anyone who bought the medicine would reject it immediately. No matter how cheap Dr. Kang's medicine was, the consumers wouldn't accept it. They were paying for treatment, not for death. When Fatty Lai finished talking about the side effects of the weight loss medicine, the audience went wild. The media found a big piece of news, and the audience, some of whom were using Dr. Kang's weight loss medicine themselves, and some of their friends and relatives were using it. Now, all of them were cursing Dr. Kang's unscrupulousness. How could they come up with something so harmful? If they took it for a long time, wouldn't it be a slow poison? To be continued. Kong Guifeng and Xiaolong brought the news of the press conference back, and Dr. Kang's blood rushed to his head, and he was sent to the hospital. Kong Mingming smiled bitterly and murmured, "It's here, right? It's finally here." Guifeng and Xiaolong didn't have the mood to attack Xiaoming anymore. House Kong was at its most critical moment. What awaited them was being seized, their products would be taken off the shelves, they wouldn't be able to sell well, and they would have to face lawsuits from consumers and huge compensation. It could be said that House Kong was in a worse state than Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Chu's villa, Su Shihan secretly came in a black MPV covered in film. Meng Yao and Yushu were very happy. Ever since Xiao Xiao left, Su Shihan didn't come to the villa anymore. Although they would text each other occasionally, Su Shihan was busy every day, and she didn't have much time to chat with them. Sometimes Su Shihan would reply after a long time or even a few days, but even so, the two of them had a sense of superiority compared to other fans. Su Shihan would definitely reply to any of their messages. A few days before Su Shihan came to Songshan, Meng Yao had already told Su Shihan not to mention Tang Yun's matter anymore. Although Su Shihan was surprised, she still followed her words. But Su Shihan was very happy when she heard that Xiao Xiao didn't die, and was taken in as a disciple by some big sect. She liked this girl a lot and felt that the two were fated to meet. They weren't sisters, but they were as close as sisters. On the other hand, she was close to Meng Yao and Yushu, but she didn't feel as close as she did with Xiao Xiao. This was a strange kind of fate between people, and Su Shihan couldn't explain it clearly. But Su Shihan's time in the villa was limited. Her schedule was fully arranged by her management company, and this half a day was just a break from her busy schedule. What surprised Su Shihan was that Lin Yi was still as cold as before. He nodded at her and went back to his room, leaving her, Mengyao and Yushu to sing karaoke in the living room. Logically speaking, she helped him a lot and she took the risk to express her position at the press conference. He should be more friendly to her, right? But thinking about Lin Yi's usual behavior, Su Shirhan knew that this guy was like this. He didn't think of her as a star at all. In his eyes, she was just a slightly prettier girl and he had never lacked pretty girls around him. At that thought, Su Shirhan was a little dejected. This guy was so annoying. Su Shirhan spent the night at Mingyao's house and the next morning she was picked up by her manager's car. Lin Yi and the others were also on their way to Donghai City. They'd filled out their application forms a while ago, and all three of them chose Donghai Industry University. Mengyao and Yushu, on the other hand, chose the economics faculty. Mengyao really wanted to learn some business knowledge so that she could help her father, or Lin Yushu on the other hand didn't have any ideas. She just followed whatever Mengyao wanted to learn. Lin Yi, on the other hand, signed up for a very unpopular major, the botany major of the biology faculty. This major was related to herbs and it was one of the unpopular majors. People who really studied plants wouldn't sign up for this major, and those who wanted to study medicine would sign up for a specialized medical university. But in a science and engineering school, there was a reason for this major to exist. When Lin Yi signed up, he had the same interest as himself and he wanted to spend time with the Miss and Shu. As for whether or not he could learn anything, Lin Yi didn't really care. Chapter 1862. Buying a house. Pingzhan had wanted to send them off, but he had just taken over the company, and there were many things he had to deal with. He woke up early every day and naturally he didn't want anything to happen to the company that he had worked so hard to get back. Besides, Pingzhan and Faubert had already had dinner with Mengyao, Shu and Lin Yi, so there was no need to send them off. But before they left, Lin Yi asked Fatty Lai about Xiaoka's orphanage, and he knew that it was doing well. Although there were only dormitories and no other facilities, at least the orphans had a place to live. Lin Yi hinted to Fatty Lai that he could give the orphanage some funding, and Fatty Lai happily agreed. With the current development of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, it wasn't possible to completely fund the orphanage in one go, but it was possible to build it in small batches. On the morning of the 8th of October, Lin Yi drove Mengyao and Yushu to Grandma Sun's house in his jeep. He had already told Grandma Sun a few days ago that he would bring her to Donghai City today, and Grandma Sun had already settled everything. When Lin Yi arrived at her house, Grandma Sun was already waiting in the yard. "Grandma Sun, you don't have any luggage?" Lin Yi looked at the empty-handed Grandma Sun, surprised. "Hee, I'm alone and I don't have much money. It's not good to put these old things in your new house. When the time comes, I'll buy a few new ones." Grandma Sun said with a smile. "I won't let you buy anything when we get there," Lin Yi smiled. "That's good, we'll be on our way then." Mengyao had already told Pingzhan about Grandma Sun, and although Pingzhan didn't have the time to meet Grandma Sun, he heard from Mengyao that Grandma Sun was a good person, and that she even took them in when they were in trouble. Naturally, he wouldn't object to Grandma Sun going to Donghai City with them and take care of them. October 10th was the first day of school for the freshmen of Donghai Industry University. It had been a tradition for many years that the freshmen of Donghai Technological University started school in October. This made the students who applied for this university very happy. They could enjoy a longer vacation after the stressful third year of high school. Of course, this rule only applied to the new students. The old students would still start school on September 1st. The four of them drove to East Ocean City on October 8th. They arrived 2 days earlier so that they could settle down first. Master's acquaintances were here, but Lin Yi didn't want to trouble them, unless it was something important. Lin Yi didn't need to trouble others for something as insignificant as buying a house. Donghai Industry University was located in the university town of Donghai City. There were more than 10 universities in the university town, and they were all very close to each other. Lin Yi drove the group around Donghai Industry University to get a feel of the school's atmosphere. Because of the unified planning a few years ago, all the universities in East Ocean City were relocated together, so the campuses were all newly built. At first glance, it had a modern vibe, and even Grandma Sun had a youthful and energetic attitude. In fact, Grandma Sun didn't look very old after changing into a new set of clothes. Grandma's son was actually less than 50 years old. It was just that she spent most of her time picking up scraps and being exposed to the sun and wind, so she looked a lot older. Of course, compared to the first high school, the buildings here were still a little inferior. After all, the first high school was a private school for nobles, and the decorations were incomparable to ordinary schools. However, the scale here was far greater than the first high school. Magnificent high-rise buildings could be found everywhere, and the size of the area was also much larger than the first high school. An ordinary small field was as big as the entire field of the first high school. The environment is not bad. Let's buy a house nearby, Linny said. It's close to school and we won't be late. Okay, you decide, Miss Sun said lightly. Unknowingly, Lin Yi had become the backbone of the family, and the miss wouldn't point her fingers and give her suggestions anymore. Lin Yi parked the car in front of an agency and got off the car with Meng Yao and Yushu. Grandma's son stayed in the car and didn't get off. From her point of view, she couldn't give any suggestions, so it was better for her to stay. After entering the agency, Lin Yi realized that the business here was quite good. It was only the morning and there were already 4 students renting houses here. 2 guys and 2 girls, they looked like 2 couples. One of the couple looked slightly older and they should be postgraduates. After signing the agreement, they paid the money and left in satisfaction. The other couple was obviously about the same age as Lin Yi and the others, and from the way they talked and acted, they should be this year's new students. The staff of the agency was helping them to find a house. It was a girl with shoulder-length hair and delicate makeup. Her eyebrows were black and her eyes were big. She was very delicate and lively. As for the boy beside her, he seemed a little shy. From his face, he looked a little immature, as if he was a little younger than the girl, and he seemed to let the girl make the decisions everywhere. He stood at the side, pursed his lips, and did not express any opinions, as if he was a little cowardly. Actually, for new students like you, renting a 1-bedroom apartment is the best. The price is low and the facilities are complete. Don't think that it's only 20 square meters, but it has a kitchen and a bathroom. This is the most popular apartment for new students, and the rent is very cheap, only $700 to $800 a month. The staff said, 1 room, how are we going to live? Let's just get a 2-bedroom apartment. The girl shook her head and interrupted the staff. Aren't you guys a couple? What's wrong with living together? Haven't you guys? The staff looked at the young couple strangely and stopped halfway. Who said we are a couple? The girl was a little dumbfounded. He's my cousin. Although we are relatives, we are so old. We can't just live in the same room, right? Isn't it inconvenient? After the staff was stunned, he shook his head apologetically. He was prejudiced. The men and women who came here to rent houses were basically student couples. It was rare to see a brother and sister combination like this. Linny also realized. No wonder I had that kind of feeling before. Turns out that these 2 people are really brother and sister. Then there is naturally nothing wrong with the sister taking the lead. At this time, another staff also came up. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.